Well, today. Ooh. Okay. So, I got to get in the mood here. All right. So, I'm just, yeah.
Welcome to episode 23 of the Triple P, the Plastic Posse podcast. My name is Scott Gentry, and I'm joined by the Posse, John Bonani, TJ Holler, and Doug Smith. So, John, what's up with you?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. You know, it's been really busy here with work, finding time to carve some out at the bench. And I have Tamiya's new Kettenkrad, which is absolutely fantastic. I've posted a little bit online. I recommend everyone go buy it. Hopefully, I'll finish it up soon. By the time this episode drops, it should be finished.
Yeah, it's an awesome little kit. Best $30 you're going to spend.
Oh, for sure.
TJ, what you been up to?
Finishing kits, like I like to do. I think since the last episode, I've finished 2 kits. I finished the Border Model Crusader 3, which was awesome. I really liked it. And I finished Tamiya's little 148 scale T-3485. And I finished that in like 4 days, maybe like 3.5. That was also really fun.
You're getting some love from ammo on that build.
Yeah, I did. That was pretty cool. I finished it with the 4BO solution box, but I supplemented it. I added some stuff because it's one of their mini boxes, so there's not a whole lot in there.
That's a great build, especially for one that only just took you literally 3 or 4 days.
It was a slammer build. It really was. I think I built it in one day, in a night. Maybe everything except for the tracks. I did that the next day, and then that was it.
Hashtag JB, hashtag slammer build.
Yeah.
My man Doug, what you been up to?
Well, other than trying to keep my yard from going up in smoke because it's so freaking hot here, I actually got working on I kind of put the Millennium Falcon to the side because we have these open-ended group builds and I haven't been doing my part. So I pulled the T-34 out and I've been kind of fiddling with that. I got the turret assembled and some texturing on it. And then I put the part that you mount the gun to. Looks like a Lego piece kind of, and it's kind of offset. I put it on backwards. So I'll figure it out. That shouldn't be too hard. Once the shroud goes over it, I can make it go in there.
There's no shame in putting things on backwards. I think everyone knows that I love Shermans. I think I've made that very clear. That's my favorite tank. I have put pieces on the transmission backwards, like the ones that hold the sprockets. I put those on backwards, not even thinking about it, just because I got in a hurry and wasn't paying attention.
And just to clarify, I wasn't chuckling at Doug because he put it on backwards. I was chuckling because he described the mountlet as a Lego piece, which I thought was fantastic.
Well, you all are the armor guys, and I don't know terminology, so I throw out what I see. And in the instructions, I think that piece is colored orange on the instructions, so it looks like a Lego piece.
I've seen a couple pictures, Doug. It's looking great. So another one, hopefully, to bring with all of our other models down to IPMS Nats for our group display.
Yeah, how are you, Scott?
I am doing good. What I've been working on as far as my modeling goes is photography, and I keep thinking I've got all my roadblocks out of the way, but I don't, but I'm almost there. I'm just waiting for a cable to download the shots out of my camera and also a card reader. Got my background now. I've got my LED lights, which are fantastic. I picked up some on Amazon and they're really great. So I'm almost there. So feeling pretty good about that. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
So I have a card reader, but I don't use it. I just plug my camera directly to my computer and Lightroom can pull it from my camera.
Yeah, I figured with all those raw files, a cable was the way to go. So that's what I ordered, rather than doing it over the Wi-Fi, which probably would take a really, really long time.
Oh, no, yeah, mine's not Wi-Fi. I plug it directly in, but I don't use, I have a separate card reader. I just don't use it. because it takes like 45 seconds to take the card out and put it into the card reader, and that's time I can't afford to lose. I will never get back.
The Plastic Posse podcast is sponsored by Goodman Models, makers of the Super Sanding Blocks. These blocks are a staple on our benches. They are terrific for controlled, precise sanding. You need to get yourself a set of these, and you can get those over at www.goodmanmodels.com. In addition to Goodman Models, the Plastic Posse podcast now has a new sponsor, Tankcraft. Tankcraft makes the highest quality products for the discerning scale modeler, and we are proud that they are now an official sponsor of the Triple P. So who is Tankcraft? Tankcraft makes beautiful self-healing cutting mats that will take your bench to the next level. Not only do they look amazing, they are made to stand up to your toughest builds. Constructed from heavy-duty laminated 3mm thick PVC, they have excellent self-healing and cut-resistant properties. But the best part is the beautifully rendered blueprint-like drawings of World War II vehicles printed on the front. Up-armor your bench by adding a mat with a Panther or a Tiger in Panzer Gray, or maybe a T-34-85 or an M4A3 Sherman in military green. They also come in two sizes, 12 by 18 inches and also 18 by 24 inches. They feature an inch grid and a centimeter border for handy reference as well. Not a tank guy? Not a problem. Tankcraft has you covered with their Aircrafter Series modeler mats. Take your bench to new heights with the mighty P-47D Thunderbolt, P-51D Mustang, or the venerable Spitfire Mark 5B. But wait, there's more. We've got an exclusive offer for Plastic Posse listeners only. If you use the code POSSE15 at checkout, you're going to get a 15% discount. Head on over to tankcraft.com. That's Tankcraft, TANKRAFT.com, no www, and order today. Hey, your bench called and it wants a new mat.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm going to order one, 15% off. That's a great deal. I don't have one, so I'm pretty stoked. Well, today, the Posse brings you another big scale modeling show. So what's on tap this time around? Well, how about TJ and Scott bring you an awesome interview with Christoph Eichorn from Austria, aka Trovarion Miniatures, award-winning mini painter and techniques teacher from YouTube. If that's not enough, TJ and I bring you yet another terrific Modeler's Minute interview with our close friend of the Posse, Kevin Kelley. Still not enough for you? Well, Mike Rinaldi stops by to discuss what's new with Rinaldi Studio Press and talk scale modeling and modeling shows with us. I loved it. You guys will too.
I'd like to remind everyone about our 3 ongoing group builds, which can be found on Facebook by searching Plastic Posse Podcast Group Build. As a reminder, the themes are TIE Fighters, Ryefield Models T-34-85 and 1/35th scale, which recently went over 400 members, and then our newest build, the Tamiya Edward 148 Spitfire Mark 1/2. So that would be the newer Tamiya kit, and I believe also the newer Edward kit. Which one's newer? I don't remember. Is the Edward kit newer?
I think the Edwards one is newer.
They're both good from what I understand. I'm building the Tamiya one, so if you don't have Facebook, that's okay. If you're on Instagram or Twitter, join us using the hashtag PPP Spitfire Group Build, hashtag PPP TIE Fighter Group Build, and hashtag PPP T-34 Group Build. That being said, we'd like to announce that these group builds will have a soft end date of August 16th, 2021. That's right, that's the Monday before Nats in Las Vegas. If you're planning on attending Nats like we are, bring your completed group build entry so that the Posse can see it in person and give us the opportunity to talk to you about it. You might even end up on the show.
Just don't leave it in your car in Vegas.
Yeah, don't do that at all. They'll melt. They will too. It's hot. I used to live there. Episode 23 of the Triple P is sponsored by Terry, Paul, Matt, Ethan, Jamie, Steve, and Rick. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the support. These members of the Plastic Posse use our paypal.me link to help us out. We really appreciate it. If you're enjoying our podcast and would like to help out the Posse, it's really easy.
It is. Just go to our website, plasticpossepodcast.buzzsprout.com. In the upper right-hand corner of each website page, there is a heart icon. You just click this icon and you can donate any amount you'd like. If you don't want to donate, that's okay too. You can still support us by taking a few moments to leave us a review wherever you're getting your podcasts from. A 5-star review will really help the Plastic Posse get out to more people who are interested in scale modeling podcasts. Speaking of podcasts, besides the Plastic Posse, there are other great scale modeling podcasts and social media content providers that we enjoy and we highly recommend. We'll start with On the Bench. Dave, Ian, and Julian. They're on episode 114, talking commission builds and selling built models. Plastic Model Mojo with Mike and Dave, episode 39, discussing goofs, gaffes, and blunders. We don't know anything about those, do we, guys?
No, we're perfect.
Just Making Conversation with James and Malcolm. Last episode was all about group builds. Scale Model Podcast, episode 73, talking industry ups and downs. Model Geeks, Darren, Nemo, Whitey, and Frildo discuss decals and decals. Then we've got awesome blog, Sprue Pies with Frets, with Stephen Lee, which is great. Stefan Ezra Bridles, Warhammer adjacent blog, and Jim Bates, a Scale Canadian TV YouTube blog as well.
I just want to say that Stefan's on his blog, well, and also I follow him on Instagram. He is working on the Border Models Crusader 3 as well, and he's doing like a really interesting khaki and brown, like dark brown scheme. I don't know where he got it from. Frankly, don't care because I'm not one for super stickler, like historical camouflage schemes. But it's pretty interesting. It's a neat combination of colors that I don't think I've ever seen. So yeah,
it looks really good. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it looks pretty sharp.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. Well, thanks for that, Doug. I know I've been listening to all of them, and I really appreciate their updates and look forward to them every week. With that, recently we had the opportunity to catch up with Mike Rinaldi and talk about what's new at Rinaldi Studio Press. He has a boatload of stuff going on. He's always engaging, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this interview that we had with him. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Welcome to the Plastic Posse podcast interview section. Today we've got a friend of the podcast, a great modeler. You guys all know him well, Mike Rinaldi. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me back. Appreciate it.
I've also got John and TJ with me.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
So, Mike, it's been a few months since we talked with you last. What have you been up to? You've been keeping
busy?
That
long? God, I feel like I just talked to you the other day. Yeah, it's this year. I would say, for many of us, 2021 was like a slow roll. That first 3 months was a bit of a hiccup coming off of last year. But I'd say, starting in May for me, things have started to pick up work-wise, which is it took a lot of effort and background to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle into place so that everything fit this time. It's important. I have very few opportunities left. I'm a cat. I think I'm on like live 8 or life 8 or 9. I'm at the end of my stretch run here of the production delays. So, but we're working on some stuff, which is, fortunately for me, it's kind of both kind of a rejuvenation of sorts and also just kind of a culmination of taking the company where I've always wanted it to go. And it's just finally the pieces are falling into place. Timing's on my side for like the first time in a long time. The printer that we were dealing with in the Czech Republic, where they're located, they reprinted Tanker 4 in December. And this is little stuff. These are little things that, we talk about rivet counting and stuff, but I will rivet count at a production of a book pretty tight. And their print quality was outstanding. I was so happy, but so much other crap was in the way and it just was really hard. And they're finally back up online. So they're ready to go. They're itching to print. So we have 5 coming up, plus we have 2 in stock. So that gives us 7 books by, midsummer. And then I just roped them into some really sweet contract deal to say, buy all the paper you can. That's why we're doing it. So those of you who don't know the print world, you buy it and you're basically buying plastic pellets for making your sprues. It's the same conversation. You're buying paper. And I use all the same paper across the books intentionally. And I just told them, I said, this is the quantities we need. This is what we need to do. And let's just get it done. I said enough effing around and let's just roll hard. And that was kind of, I'm committed all the way. It's summertime in Portland. Well, sort of raining today, but it's coming. So, good weather, time. I'm vaccinated, so I can do whatever. Totally cool. Like we're good. But let's do it. And that's kind of what happened was once I got the confirmation, and that was what I was waiting for. Like I have to be super quiet, like everyone's like, dude, what's up with Rinaldi? And I'm like, I just have to be quiet for a minute longer and to get like that's a yes, that's a almost yes. But when I need that, like a hard yes. And so that was really what it was to get everybody to say the hard yes that I needed, both for the money, for the printing, for everything. So, and now it's just let them do their job. And that's what we're going to be waiting for now is let them do it. So
That sounds excellent. You've had reprints, I think, of Tank Art 3 recently and some other things that have already hit the orders in the stores. And then on your new email blast, it looks like you've got some releases coming this summer as well. You want to talk about
It's all the stuff that's, I'm not, and that's funny. The funny thing, it's literally just getting caught up with the new releases I announced literally like late 2017 when I was trying to like launch all this stuff. And that was kind of like what I'm doing now. And I have to remind myself that was when I did that was to do in like Asia, to go over there and do all this manufacturing to get all done. And then it was just like a landmine, where everything I stepped on, it just blew up in my face and it didn't work. And, I had to kind of learn or relearn a lot of stuff. And what happens is I'm not the model builder, over here, this guy. And so like, I'm not doing this stuff. And so everything like just fell way behind. And so now it's re-implementing that process, and it's the same plan, same goal. So, but for RSP, like I've never had 4 tank arts on sale at one time. It's always been like 1 or 2, then the third one sells out, and then I print another one. I'm always like rotating. So as a company, the money wise, like you go up and then you go way down hard, and then you go way back up, and it's like, no, I just want smooth sailing, dude. Like I don't, business side of it all just level this out to make it all work, and I'm sure Adam and I would probably, when we talk soon, we'll probably have some comments about business and small business and the hobby and working it out to make this a career successfully so that things can happen, because there's a lot of stuff coming, this is just, I've just had to be, lips are sealed. NDA with myself is just, I don't tell anybody anything anymore just to get this done, and then we'll chat. So that's kind of.
The good thing about your structure is if somebody leaks something to the media, you know who to talk to.
I'll know. I'm coming for you. I'll know. Yeah, I do that on purpose. I've had my knocks on the bad side of what, we talk about with, when you tell stuff to other people and people want sneak peeks and this thing, I've had it all go bad for me too. And that's just life. That's human beings, I don't take it too much in a personal way, I really just try to, like I've kind of learned and toughened up, you stay focused, keep the emotions on the low part, get mad off screen. Don't get pissed off on camera, on the internet or whatever. Just yell and scream at the world, and then come back. Hey dude, what's up guys? It's cool. And just keep it focused. Because I got a lot to do. It's like literally there's a lot of books, a lot of stuff to get done, a lot of conversation, a lot of videos to do coming up. And I just want to have a good time with everybody, I think everybody's in the mood to have a good time with this again. I think that's kind of my sense is the hobbies. And is this not like, not to complain about COVID, but what's happened to us is now we're captured audiences. We're primed to make the hobby an important part of cultural society in terms of like what's going on for us as a global kind of conversation. Like it's everywhere, dude. It's guys are building, and even girls are coming in. It's going crazy, especially like with the Gundams and stuff. That's just a whole side. I know we don't talk about it a lot, but TJ, I think you're in. Was it TJ or somebody at the last podcast is into the sci-fi pretty hard, but it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And with all the new people coming into the hobby, especially younger builders, I think that's the way they're coming. They're Warhammer figure painters, or they're Gundam builders, or they're building, obviously those fantastic Star Wars Bandai kits. Those are really good entry points for new modelers, and even for people coming back into the hobby, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh, I get emails almost probably once or twice a week from a guy. I haven't built a model in like 40 years, and I was watching, whatever, and I'm like, all right, go for it. And I tell him, I always say to him, your eyes are going to be a buffet with this stuff. If you've not been around for a while and you come back to this, like it's a buffet type. Just get a small plate and just nibble it first, because it's going to be a little crazy when it comes in.
All right, so I know I got this email, and I'm sure everyone else did, an update from RSP. And in it was a little nugget about videos, and you also just mentioned something briefly about it. So you're going to be making videos now? Where can we find these videos?
Okay, so I believe if I'm on my point with this, is everything is at Rinaldi Studio for me. So all my socials are at Rinaldi Studio. I think Instagram, Facebook. I believe the YouTube channel is listed. They do it a little bit differently. Like they're their own company, the YouTube stuff. So if I screw that up, I apologize. And we can probably swing back around after the show or put some through, but there'll be a link to that. But it should be at Rinaldi Studio. And right now it just has the header picture up there. I've got right now I've been spending all my time with the graphics. So YouTube graphics are different than Instagram graphics, are different than Facebook graphics, different than print graphics. So I'm getting all my photos lined up. I'm doing all my Jimmy Jams to get my stuff, working on the lighting. So from what Scott was mentioning before, where we had talked in earlier this year, I was in a smaller unit in this apartment building down the hallway, and I've moved into this space here. And this is actually a functional office for me now. One of the things that I did this move for, even though it's a little bit more money for me, was for the intention of finally making the jump into the video digital world of content creating for the purposes of scale model building under the Rinaldi Studio Press brand. And then to kind of it'll be a combination of what I feel live streaming, and that'll probably just entail, me working on a project in front of you guys while we're having a chat, and then just let guys, do their thing. It might be similar to kind of the old school Facebook Q&A that I did. If you guys, that was kind of, that was I think we talked about that before. That was kind of a lifeline for me and also for the guys, because the books were so freaking late, and it was a way to keep talking to everybody and a way to keep interacting with everybody. And so I think I'll continue that in a form via live streaming. And then what I'll do is I really get up to speed on editing, video making. Oh my gosh. Because what very much like the books, the thing I learned way back when was you need the photos. If you don't take all the photos for the model while you're building the models, like everything, even if you never use them, you got to have them for whatever purposes. And it's the same with, like, I'm learning with videos, like I need to film everything and go through that motion and set myself up. But the problem is for me has been the lighting is very different, because the videos cameras shoot differently than DSLRs for me. And I'm not using my DSLR for videoing, even though eventually so it's like this whole re-ramping, me learning all sorts of technical stuff, which is a challenge, and it's cool. It's a little bit of a shot in the kick in the ass. Like, okay, I'm not as smart as I thought I was, so I got to learn a few things. And Scott's helped me with equipment, and some other dudes and some other stuff. So it's a lot of that, TJ, for me to really get that going. So live streaming to start, because it's just fundamentally the easiest to get something going, get the connection to you guys, get everybody involved, get it out there, do the promos, get that branding kind of marketing crap going. And then while I'm doing oil paints and hairsprays and all that stuff, we'll do that while we're doing the streams. And then from there, as I kind of cut my teeth with editing, is to really do the canned, edited, RSP branded, videos. And then the third element that I really want to do, which is kind of, I'm like, would be the thing I've really needed, because I don't have a big marketing budget. I mean, truth is, I'm a little guy, whole thing. But a YouTube video of me talking about the books in terms of, like, let's flip to page 50 in this tank art book or this SM book or whatever, and let's talk, like, this is what I'm talking about. And then maybe do a little demo with it, and then do kind of a quasi book review demo product brand, for RSP to kind of like give me the legs I need to, and then can that and say, here's a link, guys, go check this out. And guys that are new to the books or whatever, from a business, because it is a business and I have to make money. So, and I don't want to just be doing videos because my pretty face is, for everybody. And I'm like, no, nobody wants to see that. So that's kind of where the initial heading is going to be. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have 4 months of me printing books, and they're all kind of pretty much ready to go. So now is the time for me to sit here and just grind it. It's in the grind mode. It's football season's coming. This is preseason for me to just get in shape, and get it all done. Because Martin, if I talk to Martin's been doing this for years, dude. He's way ahead of that curve for me. So like, if I'm going to be like competitive, which is, let's be honest, let's get a little competitive hat on and let's go to town with them in a fun way. It's good, because I think that's what elevates everybody. And, oh shit, Martin's kicking my ass, I better get going. So stuff like that is important to me, so I stay motivated and focused and, get my skill sets for YouTube up to, because like we just mentioned, Facebook to me hasn't really worked out the way I had actually hoped it would kind of be for a company like mine. It's a difficult platform, I find, to use. Instagram's been way easier, even though I've been quiet on it. I did my foray through Instagram, but I think YouTube's going to be kind of the conjunction, the final piece of that puzzle to really allow me just to be a kind of a small company, and I hopefully can grow and get some people to work for me and stuff like that. That's kind of the end game, because I have to film myself. I don't have an assistant. I don't have anybody help me. And this guy is not going to hold the camera, so all that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of. Scott helped me with the microphone. I got myself a little camera here. And so I use the iPhone 12. And the reason I bought that, because I'm an Apple guy, everything's Mac for me. I was on like an iPhone. I was on an 8 Plus. And I got those specifically because, these phone companies are really pushing their camera technology. And I'm like, I had a Canon DSLR as a backup video camera. I was going to do like old school kind of late 90s, early 2000s style, like DSLR video with the lens, and actually but it was really hard to have a tripod and film myself. And I was trying to do all these test shots a couple of years ago. But I needed something kind of really, for me, how I work. And again, when we do the videos, I'll do like a behind the scenes for everybody, because that'll be kind of like my workbench is hyper simple. It's not like messy. John probably agrees. I know John's a really clean, neat guy. And I like a clean, empty workbench. I've got like one thing going. But the little phone, I can have like a little holder right in front of me. And this guy can be like right here and it's out of the way. But the camera, the 12 camera for video is really good up close. And that's what I needed. I needed like a 4K 4-inch shooting distance, 3-inch shooting distance for video taking of the hands. Because the thing that kills me, everybody, dude, I saw your video at Belgium or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, the camera's like over here and he's shooting me from 30 feet away. And you can't see a thing. And I knew it going in. I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be a problem. But I didn't know I was getting filmed. So I'm like, I got off the plane like, yeah, you got to give a demo. And I'm like, oh, okay. So those kind of things were like, I was like, oh yeah, I want dudes to see. I want you to see the tip of those bristles doing their thing, like super high tech, super up close. So I had requirements. And that was kind of what I was going to get, like a nice macro, get in there, get tight, a couple inches away, but it's too much equipment in the way, even overhead, because that view's so weird. Like, when you're like straight down. So I'm trying to get like, the POV, learning all the stuff, kids. I'm learning. I'm old. So that's kind of where I'm going with all of it. Hopefully it works. We'll see. It might be this week. I'm hoping maybe by like midweek, maybe do like a midday stream, like Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, possibly. And just kind of like intro and hey, and do a quick demo. We'll see. I don't know. I got to start sometime.
And like Mike said earlier, we'll have links for all that for all of you guys listening out there to his YouTube channel, and you can take a look at it. And hopefully by then we'll have a video to check out.
There is TJ in that newsletter that there is a clickable link that does go to the YouTube homepage for my channel. So I think I did put an actual like cut and paste link in there for everybody that did get that newsletter. And I'm actually working with the dude to help me, because the contact forms, the CSV forms, and the websites for everybody's names and emails and stuff. I've had like 3 websites and it's kind of a mess. And I got a friend of mine who's really good at that, who's going to collate all the lists for us. And I'm going to try to up my email game too. I know I've been really kind of slacking on the newsletter stuff. But with everything going on, I think I've got to kind of up my game across the board. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing.
Was that good, Scott?
That was great. Yeah, it was great. I think.
I hope it's good.
It's good stuff.
I'm just having coffee with you guys. I don't really care what's going on.
Mike said POV. I'm good.
It's a collab. It's a POV. Got the subs coming in. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Click this link. Whatever you got to do. All that crap. Put the links up here. Whatever. Right. Click that follow button. And dude, you have to so it's so funny. I'm watching YouTube videos of guys how to make YouTube videos, because I'm like, how do you get that little button in the corner for, and I was watching some girl do her little like fitness thing. She's like, okay, guys, to do your little subscribe button. Because dude, that's the thing with YouTube is I didn't really pay attention, to be honest with you guys. I was like the last to get a cell phone, and I'm the last to like really pay attention to what's been going on YouTube. And dude, it's like everything. You can just like encyclopedia YouTube, and like a video and something will come up that's related to what you're looking for. You're like, holy crap. Like more than just Googling.
Yeah. I mean, I changed a spark plug on my car from Googling it or YouTubing it. I mean,
my master cylinder busted on my old car, and I was like, can I fix it? I YouTubed the guy fixing the same car, the master cylinder. He's like, you know what, if you don't have this and this, and I was like, I got to take it to the shop, because the YouTube dude told me I can't do it in the street.
Seriously.
So yeah, no, it's great. I'm actually, it's been kind of like, there's always that little bit of fear, like it's a new territory. You're like, okay, shit, can I do this? Do I have the time? I was super scared about the time commitments it was going to bring. It's like, oh my God, it's going to kill me. But I think it was, a lot of it's the interviews that I've been doing the last couple of years in particular really got me comfortable on a camera. Never liked being on camera at all. Hated that. Don't like my voice. All that stuff that we all worry about, that stupid bullshit the dudes are like, stop, But it's okay now. And I'm more comfortable with it. And the other crews I've been talking to have been, everyone's super nice. And that's what's kind of put that spin on it for me, is that I think the time's come. I think we're going to see a real strong community develop in the next 5-10 years of what we're all trying to do. And it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be a fun ride.
definitely maximize the technology. You know, we're kind of worldwide, we seem to be kind of moving away from the magazine sort of based society to a lot more of an online, you know, collaborative type thing. Just like you said with YouTube, you know, you YouTube to fix your car, you YouTube to find out how to oil paint render, you know, it's the same kind of a thing.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So Mike, along those lines, you know, in addition to YouTube, there's Patreon as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's so I did a tutoring. Actually, let me back up. I was asked to be a judge for an online Gunpla contest recently, and then a couple of the guys reached out to me. I was judging the weathering cat. It was a clean versus weathered in the Gunpla community. If you guys aren't familiar, and it was unique to me too. I wasn't aware that it was like a thing. They actually build non-weathered models like the way the ship guys would do for a museum, like a museum quality, non-dirty. It's called the clean build. And they had this contest of a group of guys versus a group of stuff that we do, the weathered side. And so they asked me to judge that. And a couple of guys reached out to, hey, would you look at my stuff after the show and give me some, you know, we'll do like a video thing. And he said, and the guy even said like, I'll pay you some money for it. And I said, well, you know, I tried not to do that. I tried not to go down the tutoring road, but I did an open session with the guy. His name was Steve, and he's in Michigan, and we had a really good time. And it kind of made me think. And this was a little bit ago, right as I was starting to get this going with the video stuff. And I was like, you know, and I was still on the FaceTime camera on the computer and stuff, and using just the AirPods for the mics and stuff. And I said, you know, I should probably look at Patreon harder. I should really, you know, if I'm going to put my time and energy into this, and again, it's a business, you have to stay focused. You know, if you can, you know, monetization is an important element to survival. I mean, let's just be real. I'm paying more important than I was in Los Angeles for 40 years. So it's, you know, times have changed. And I think a nice, simple Patreon tiered structure would probably be a smart play late summer, midsummer. And then probably I would even have, because I've got time. I noticed like if I could give an hour or two to an interview or to a tutoring session, I'd probably be willing to kind of take on a bigger hat occasionally, like maybe once or twice a month, a couple weekends, maybe book guys out in advance. And if they want to do like an hour or two with me in kind of a, you know, because I think the fitness community does it a lot, you know, the whole thing. A lot of people do this, and I'm like, I don't know, you get pulled in all these directions, but because I'm doing it all and it's all the same equipment, it's all right here, I think it would work, John. I think it would kind of just be a smart play, you know, maybe down the road, and just keep it low key at first. You know, I got a lot to learn. It's tough, man. I tell you, there's a lot the equipment wise, a lot, but yeah, that's something I've definitely given hard thought to. I haven't announced it like formally yet, but I just want to make sure everything works on the video side first for me and everything.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I just bring it up because there's a lot of content creators that both have YouTube and Patreon, and they just give a little bit more on Patreon.
Well, Martin's doing this full time because he's doing all that. So, you know, that's a very real thing for sure.
Yeah.
Will does a Patreon where if you sign up for his tier, every Saturday morning he just schedules an hour, and every other one he does for CAD, because a lot of guys are getting into 3D printing, and so he's doing Fusion 360 tutoring, and I jumped on that, and it's really, really great. So yeah, I think that's a terrific idea, Mike.
Yeah, I agree totally. The technology that we have for all this stuff is you know, with Amazon, I mean, you can get it in a couple of days, you know, that even the stuff out of China is decent. Like everything's working really well for this. So I'm pretty happy with, you know, I can't complain. And I think we're all going to really benefit from it. You know, look at you guys. I mean, this was a phone call last time, and now it's a full video thing. And you know, you guys are the next level. So, you know, and I'm sure your production values are going to keep going up as you guys grow too, which will be awesome.
I made Scott get video because I want to see his beautiful face every time I talk. So, you know, we talk about, maybe if I can take the conversation back in a sense, where we talk about the digital age and what we have at our fingertips and what's evolved. But I think there is still a place for print media. You know, we had talked to Adam, and one of the things he pushed for is wanted to know, are books still a thing? And TJ is shaking his head. We have a couple friends, Aaron Cook as well. Like we have a problem when it comes to modeling books. I think that your Tank Art series is a perfect example of quality publication. And I'm just going to continue a little bit more and remind, do you remember when we first talked, Mike? Do you remember the first time? It's okay to say no. It's okay.
Well, I would say it's missing link. It's got to be missing links maybe 8-9 years ago. I know
missing links. The first time we talked in person was at the AMPS Atlanta show, and you said something that kind of stuck with me. Okay. And it's really it's
that shit's a blur, dude.
I know. But
because that's after the fall of MMIR. So that was I had to worry about like if Pat Stans and I were going to go to blows and stuff because it was like it didn't end well. Like it was a lot of animosity. Yeah, he was there and I was there and I was like, I was sitting at the bar with Adam and we were having I think we were drinking Corona of all stuff in Atlanta. I do vaguely remember that. What I would say, what is that, John? 2013?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 2013. I only bring up that conversation because what you said has stuck with me the whole time, and really how I judge about buying things, and what you said specifically about your tank art series. And it really resonated when you said, I want to create a product where it's of equivalent value if you take someone out on a date or less. And I think that's a great methodology, and your books have kept that pricing structure. So I just want to say, that tidbit you told me, honestly, when I buy a weathering solution or a book, I'm always like, you know what? I won't drink a pint tonight. I can get this instead.
Yeah. It's looking at, I've had guys go, especially like at Horn and Hobbies, they were like, dude, your book should be like $65. And I'm like, you mean US dollars or Canadian dollars? Because like, what are you talking about? He said, no, they need to be US dollars. I'm like, okay. A little nudge to you Canadians.
Oh, Dave Brown was great up there.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the paper, look at the binding, look at the content.
Yeah.
We start on the binding. Yeah, the company out of India, the second tank art 3 I tried to print, the binding was that's what the delay was. That delay on the binding is what caused the book to show up the week before COVID in March of last year when it should have been in a Christmas delivery. And it damn near, that was it for me. Like it was stuck on a boat in the water out there and it was just, nobody was letting anybody into the ports. And it was all just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, John, the price point's really critical. I've had a lot of people tell me the books are too cheap, which is fine. I would probably sell into the future as a stable company. And I mean that is we have a dozen books coming. That goes off without too many problems and that works. So by Christmas time, everybody's got 12, 14 books to buy. Cool. Go do your thing, guys. Get your stuff going. And me quietly starts working on new books. Okay, well, what are we going to do with these? And how much, because it takes a long time to make a new tank art book or that size of a book. So to the SM book conversation and the technique guide coming in, I mentioned this a little bit, is it provides a lower price point for my company. Gets guys in at $20, $25 around there. And then the technique guides are the books that I want to see in every hobby shop because they're going to be the general use for everybody, the basics, if you will. Not so much from like a beginner point of view, but just this is how you airbrush, this is how you deal with pigments, this is how you deal with chipping, like just books that just for anybody. And that's just from a product standpoint of expansion. What do we do? How do we do it? What kind of stuff do I make? So no, it's what do I do as a company? How do I do this? How do I grow and how do I expand? But I can't sit here and make a tank art book or that 5 model project book all the time, dude. You guys all know. I mean, and here's the kicker. And this is, Adam and Martin and Volker and everybody out there. Those guys out there all know this too. You're only as good as your last piece. Yeah. And I have to respect the fact that you guys, as my customers or friends or whatever, you expect a certain level from me. You just do. It's just straight up. Like if I'm an athlete and I go on the field and if I'm not doing my job, you all know it. Mm-hmm. So to that end, I got to make sure what I build is on point, that whole thing. And so that's a whole nother level of, I'm just not skipping through builds. Like I've got to do my thing, all the way through. And I got to take the pictures for the books. And then I got to do the, now videos to do. So to that little point too, I'll also be doing you won't see what's in the books, me making those in video for the books, if that makes sense. In other words, what you see in the books will be fresh content. You're paying for it. You're going to get it just like Tamiya drops the kit on you now. Like the whole pre-order thing, I'm hoping to kind of move away from. And like, I'm not even showing SM4 until the SM4 shows up from the printer. Like nobody's seeing nothing until that happens. And that's just out of respect for everybody, that everybody enjoys that moment of Christmas of here it is. And I want that to happen in that particular order because I can use the videos now to kind of say, here's some other stuff I'm working on that's just maybe never going to be in a book, or if it is, it's years away or whatever. And let's just have a good time. Or it's a demo piece. I've got some old demo models in the closet that I actually took around the world and pulled them back out. And so I've got a lot to juggle with that kind of conversation of pricing and the tiered structure of the products. But I think the $45 to $50 range is a good sweet spot. Yes, I would like to make more money, but and shipping, the other side of it, not to interrupt you there, sorry. The shipping, you got to be careful with how you price your shipping too. Mm-hmm. Man, it's a nut buster if you do it wrong. And I'm in a mode where labels are hyper expensive right now. Yeah. Post office here in the States have just
skyrocketed. Brutal.
Yeah. And I ship media mail. So one tank art book media mail is about $4 now. It used to be $1.50.
Yeah.
And then priority mail is like $10, $12, and guys won't, if guys are buying a $45 book and $10 shipping, it's $55, $60 now.
Yeah.
So, and in Europe, Asia, don't get me started, but I'm working on some solutions for globally. It's a big deal, because even Canada, John, it's damn near the same price to Europe now. Going to Canada. I'm like, what do you guys do? Well, they're broke.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's what it is. Yeah, it is. There's no relief. There's no going, we don't go backwards from that. So
yeah. Yeah. Especially in the States, it's awful. Like, since you're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. If you ship anything across the Mississippi, you're doubling the price. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I've shipped kits, to some friends in California where shipping is nearly as much as the kit. I mean, it's upwards of $18 now for shipping a 35th scale.
There's no reprieve.
Zero.
I mean, I can buffer some out of the price of the book, and I do. We cut a little bit out, but yeah, it's a very tough conversation. It's one of those where, and this kind of is like the putting out the fires, but it's shipping always kind of like, it's like the ex-wife. You get the text from the ex-wife, and it's like, that's the one text you don't want to have right now. Like, I don't need the shipping problem right now. Like, can you just not bother me with that? It's literally what it is. It's like, yeah. Because it's never good. It's like, here it comes. It's never good.
Right. So the question I'm interested in is, every publication you bring out, I think Tank Art, they all kind of evolve in a certain way. I have the first issue of Tank Art 1. I remember buying it.
The gray cover?
Yeah, the gray cover.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think there was a guest writer in it. That was before.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I did have it. Yeah, that was Marin Van Gils. It was kind of the general, hey guys, kind of a thing.
So it was like old school, but I've seen your publication, and specifically with each issue of Tank Art evolve, whether it's going deeper into a specific technique, bringing in a new guest. If you can maybe shed some light on what could we expect in a future Tank Art, and maybe, again, you don't have to share the details, but what are your thoughts on how do you evolve your publications with either yourself or maybe some people from the community?
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a little bit of a contentious issue, because I kind of treated it a little bit, again, my background is like, when we buy a car in 2015, the 2017 model of that same car is a little bit different, and it's upgraded. And it was kind of that mental thing. And I was like, I knew when the gray covers came out, when I did that, it was actually under the gun. I had a business partner we were working with, and there was the pressures of, you got to do this. There was commitments, there's deadlines, and the artist in me was like, I wanted to do this, and this. And so when the green covers came in, and then I locked in so what I did was I locked in a format, John, to what happened was, I think it was when I did the third edition of Tank Art 1, because there was a second one, and there was the gray covers, and then there was the green cover second edition, which was just kind of a restock, but I wanted to reskin it a little bit, because what I did was, if you guys recall, because this goes to the second part of your question, is I had shown briefly covers of other subject matters like aircraft art, science fiction stuff. And so the colors were going to relate. So the green was military, the blue was aviation. I think yellow was construction. And I was going to do probably like a gray or a black for these guys. And so I was developing the company forward, because I always knew I wanted to do more than armor. And it's not that I don't like armor, nothing to do with that. It's just I was known for that, so I started with that as just to kind of tie that in. And then what I was doing was branching in, graphically, what do I want to do as a brand as moving forward? So you saw the evolution from the gray covers. And then the first group printing of the Tank Art 1 and 2 in particular was like, the graphics were there, but I was really hustling to get it done. And so when I went back and kind of reevaluated my own graphic design work, I wanted the books to breathe a little bit. They seemed a little dense and with the black strips on the bottom, and you had the gray strip up top, and then the orange box. I tried to calm that layout, calm it down, and kind of even them out, if you will, as you go through. Like, if you were to really flip open, and I could do a video, that was a great topic for a video of like the evolution of a design work, kind of an idea related to our hobby. But it was kind of like looking at my layouts and going, So I cleaned up the text formatting, like I cleaned it all up. The numbers on the bottom of the page were cleaned up and just kind of calmed down and just a little bit more breathable, because I like the white space. And I think it allows the readers to really focus in on the topic more and not get distracted with pretty girls and gradated backdrops and stuff like that. And like, it's Tank Art's a tool. Yeah, don't get me down. I mean, I would if I could, but I'm not. I love that you all know what I'm talking about too. I think one of my prime goals is, and this is, I think my conversation was with our interview, the first part of this year was, and I've really honed in on this last few months, is I really want to take RSP into like a top tier education role as a publisher. Really want to embrace the fact that I'm here. My purpose is to teach, to share, to level the playing field of terminology so that everybody understands what a wash is, what a filter is, all that stuff, and create a platform that allows people to come in as they need to and learn and then go do their thing. And then I'm not telling you how to do a style. I'm not telling you what to buy or this. I mean, I can help, but that's not what my purpose is. So, and then really be kind of a voice of because when we talk, like, we're all here for model building. So let's talk about shipping and like, what does that mean? And what is it about? And how to do it? And what are the forms to create that? And how do we, what are the ways to do those? And okay, this way does this way does this way. And I want to have just a format that just boom, cuts right through, real simple, clear. So the tank art thing in there was kind of calming that layout down for that purpose so that the writing goes easier. So what I do, and a lot of guys, John, I know you've published, and so you understand, a lot of guys, when you send out contributor work, you type it in a Word doc and it gets edited and you drop it in the layout, and then the dudes do their little jimmy jam and mix it all up. And that's how it always was done. I hate it. I hated it from day one because you can't get across at times when you're in a mode in that section of the model to really get going what I'm doing. And tank art falls into that trap where the white, the black wording on the white pages goes through as a story, but it doesn't always correlate to what's on the page. And the orange boxes do much more concisely. So when I went into SM, you'll look, if you put those two books side by side, when you went into the SM mode, and I actually think SM is just, some guys probably don't like the small page size, but it's deceptive. Don't let it fool you. I really wanted that writing to happen on the page with what was going on the page in terms of the model building in a very one-to-one relationship, so that when you're, as a reader, what's the maximum value out of that page? And that means when the text matches that page, and it's that step, it's that moment, that flow of the book, when you read them through, like SM03, when you read that through in SM2, that's the flow I wanted. It's really hard to do in a tank art book when you've got so many projects and you have to get each into like a 30, 40, it's a giant magazine is what it is in reality. So the future of tank art will probably continue. I locked in 1, 2, 3, and 4 as just kind of contain those and then keep that as is in that format. I think it works. Everybody still pretty much likes it. I mean, there's obviously some criticisms for some things, and I'm fine with that. And mainly it's you read some of it and the words on this page, and then 20 pages later, that story picks back up. I don't like that part about it, truthfully told. But I don't want to redo tank art to be a giant SM book either. I just let them be what they are. They're fine. Right. And then introduce the subjects, as I was talking about, with the different color covers, so that like in 5 years, I can see, 4 or 5 tank arts, 4 or 5 aviation art, 4 or 5 sci-fi art, in the color schemes and that would be a nice catalog for me to retire off of. Okay, cool. I did my job. And then, but the SM books, and the reason for the SM books in particular was, how does Mike Rinaldi, the model builder, publish material on a regular basis? And that was always the end game of that. Secondary was shipping, was what we just talked about. An SM book is about 8 ounces, which is half a pound. And I forget how many grams that is for the metric dudes. But it's really cheap to ship in comparative terms. And especially in bulk, I can ship hundreds of SM books for a third the price of bulk shipping tank art. So that's important for my wholesale accounts. If I got to sell stuff to Asia, to Australia, New Zealand, even across the board, Canada and Mexico and South America, the weight of a book is crazy. So SM books were designed for 2 main purposes. One was to allow me to build a model, get it done, cover it, produce it, publish it, get it out there, make money from it while I make the bigger stuff. And then it's a little bit it's a nice price point for guys to jump into. It's a good entry point. But truth is, when you read the SM books deep and you read them a few times, you realize, I think the coverage you get at 130 pages for one model, to me, was like that was like oh shit, why wasn't I doing this from the start? And I think a lot of guys, I don't know if anybody really knows him. I don't know him personally too well, but Adam O'Brien in Australia, who's an outstanding model builder himself. He works for David Parker and his AFE modeler and air modeler and stuff. He wrote to me, he said, that's the best format we've seen yet, your SM books. And that was kind of a validation from a guy who I respected and say, okay, he's read a lot of publications. He writes contributing stuff. And I'm like, well, the truth is, so when I'm in the computer, what you guys now understand is I will build that step for a couple of days, take all my pictures, edit them, and then I will make those pages in the book at that moment in time. And then I'll sit back down, model, build, do it again, and do that until the book's done. So I don't build the model and photograph it, then go back and write it back about it, drop it in the layouts and match all the I do it 1-to-1 now, 1-to-1. And that's why my workbench is set up the way it is, and the photos and et cetera, et cetera.
Mike, in that vein, what approach are you going to take on the TG books?
More like a military weapons manual kind of an idea. That's why the covers are kind of looking like that. I wanted to pull in kind of that 50s, 60s U.S. Army industrial vibe of how to teach something. It was just what I don't know. I've got, I served way back when, but I've got my old M16. It's a little tiny little manual, and it's got this little cover, and it's like how to do. And I was like, that's super cool. Like, imagine doing that with like hairspray, and not so much the black and white line drawings, but just kind of that vibe of, I really want that graphic element to be. Well, I should back up a little. I do need to tickle the designer in me. Does that make sense? Because like I can get going on the scale modeling and find in I'm obviously super chatty because I haven't shut up yet, but the graphic designer in me also needs a challenge because I just don't want to that's also what my background is. And so the TG books were kind of a fresh look for me, to kind of play with and work on. And there's a couple cover iterations, but the ones that are up there now, that kind of solid cover. And then there's paper. This company that makes this colored paper that is kind of like, I can just pick the color stock and slap some black ink down, and they're super cheap to print, but they got kind of a cool, manual vibe, car manual, military manual vibe to them. And that kind of like, dude, just like that shit. So I'm like, all right. It's kind of like the antithesis of putting the girls in the stuff. So it's going the other way, But that's kind of what it was. I really wanted to be real cut and dry, they don't need to be very long. They may be 64 to 90 pages long and just kind of covering. You're just looking at the tip of the iceberg for those. And I have to really kind of work that out. That'll probably be like my 2022. The bulk of what I really do is new technique guides and stuff like that. So, but new tank art stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, I know we're all armor guys here for sure. The closet's full of stuff. There's about 50, just so you guys know, there's about 50 models pre-built, ready to paint, covering all subjects. I could probably do 4 redo full new tank arts if I wanted to. If I was just like, if somebody just paid me to do tank art, like I could just sit here and do them. I've got enough material for 4 solid books of, probably 2 more German and a full Allied and then a full modern. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to do as maybe just a little cat out of the bag, probably like a, I don't want to call it the 1946, but maybe a what if book as well. I've got enough, that whole E100 bullshit. So those 2 models are up in the, I don't want to say 2 models. The original one's up there, and I've stripped it down. I've rebuilt it. The original E100 I made, the very, very first one.
I remember that from Missing Links.
That's what all starts from. I'm going to probably do a special book on it, to be honest with you guys. I think what I'll do is probably sit down with the E100. I've got the Model Collect, who were they were a very kind company when they produced their 72nd scale version. That the guy he's a super nice guy, Chinese guy. I forget his name now, but he's a really nice gentleman who runs Model Collect, which is actually an independent company, unlike Trumper, who uses some chairs factories and stuff. Fire department's going by. But Model Collect was really nice. So I've got like the 72nd scale version, and I've got my original. Then I've got one of the Trumpeter kits still left in the stash. And then I've taken one and I've done kind of a round 2 of my own. And so I might just do a book on that just for my own ego. But just kind of a fun down the road project for sure. I definitely want to just pay tribute to the E100 because it made me realize I could probably do something as a business or a career in this. I could actually probably do something with this whole deal. So.
I remember your 2 older builds on Missing Links. You had an E25 and an E10 as well. That's old school Mike.
Yeah, I looked at those photos the other day. Oh my God.
Missing Links is like the Facebook for professionals, where you look back at your party days and you're like, why did I post that picture? And now you're like, I am older and more wiser. Yeah, no, there's some quality stuff there, man.
We have to walk before we can run, right? I mean, we have to kind of cut in our teeth on. And I think this is, the history of what we're talking about today, being here today with you guys and just the relatable communities out there. There's a couple those starting points to me are the most fascinating stories. And in our armor world, it was Missing Links. And I know World War II Model Maker was part of that too. Yeah. But Missing Links, which is still going with Brett and Hyperscale on the airplane side, tons of props to respect for all that. It's where so many of us have started our journey together, going back to say 04, 05, and even I think Mig goes back to probably earlier than that. And a few other guys do. Adam probably does. I still roll through on occasion. I think my Tapatalk account is closed, or I don't know what it is. When he switched to Tapatalk, I didn't redo the whole thing. So I don't post anything because I think I have to redo the whole setup. I don't know. I gave up on it. And that's when Facebook blew up, and that's when Instagram came on, and I just, you get pulled 1,000 different ways, but it's a good story for a lot of us. There's so many of us that, you know, we all kind of, and they're still out there. I still see a lot of the names. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember him, you know.
I still go back to the galleries. I mean, even people's earliest
There's some work in there. There's some heavy hitters in there.
So inspirational. I mean, you know, Rhodes Williams is another one, you know, Dio guy. You don't see him very much, but like some of his, you know, first stuff is there. You know, we've mentioned Sam Dwyer before. Mirko and you. And I mean, it's just, it's.
I do remember, okay, when they used to run the models on the banner up top, I remember when my first, it was probably the E10 or the E25, and I liked the E20. The E10 to me was like, oof, I saw that again. I was like, oh, that was rough. Because it was like a red primer, you know, what if, and it was heavily pre-shaded, and it was really dark and black. And I mean, I guess it's okay, but yeah, I was like, no, I can't do that. So, but yeah, I remember those days when you're like, who's in the gallery today? Like you go in and check, oh, look at his new, you know, that whole thing. It was cool stuff, man. That was the shizzle. You know? Oh yeah, Andrew Dextrous was running it and all that stuff. That's
right. Oh man,
Jim Blackwell, all those guys.
Yeah, the OGs.
Sam Dwyer back in the day, early days.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, Scott, I mean, I can go all day with Mike. You gotta cut me off. So I mean, I'll keep bullshitting. I mean, I like this shit.
See, I thought, John, that we'd actually met in Toronto, because when I just assumed that you'd visited it was either IPMS, Torcan, 20. That's what I thought. Even I forgot about the AMP show, because that was the only one I only did that one AMP show.
Yeah, I missed your classes up in Toronto because I went to the hobby shop that you were. Same year I went up there, and I went in the hobby shop, you know, Horner Hobbies, and I'm standing there, I'm like, holy cow, that's Mike Stug 3. And it was right before the hobby shop closed. And
they had it on display. That's right.
Yeah.
I have it back here. It's in the other shelf, but I have it again. I have that model back, actually. Yeah.
Nice. And he had your Persian as well, your 148.
Both of them. The Persian, yeah. And that's the reason is the Tank Art 2 update. I wanted to update. So I updated the AMX 30 in Tank Art 3. So I did part of my technical conversations is with OPR in particular is going back to previous work and kind of tweaking stuff. And I love that part of model building a little bit. And so I'm updating the Persian, which I have, and I have the Stug 3, which I don't know what to do with that one just yet. I might go a little crazy with that one actually, but I have it. So
yeah, I mean, that just stuck out to me. And that was the year that you gave the class up there, and I saw your work and I was like, holy cow. And then, you know, Dave Brown's an awesome guy. We sat in the basement with your Stug and Pershing there. I remember I was so awestruck too. Like I pulled out my model, I put it next to it, I took a picture of it. I thought it was so cool. I was like, I got my model next to Mike Rinaldi's Stug 3. It was and I'll have to share a picture with it for our listeners. But you know, I don't know, that was the effect you had on me. Certainly getting back serious, and then having the opportunity to talk to you at AMPS, and then crossing paths online. But I hope we can bump shoulders again. The beer's on me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know about this year for me personally. I've just got a lot on my plate, but it's a rebuild year for me, of course. But I know for sure if World Model Expo happens in Europe and Belgium, if that goes off and guys are traveling to Europe, that would be a show a lot of people should really put on their radar.
Yep.
I'm supposed to judge at that one. As far as U.S. shows, I know IPM, the Vegas guys did write me and say, hey, if you're coming to Vegas, would you mind doing something? And I said, I'm actually not coming this year. So I haven't done an IPMS national show in a long time. I want to say Anaheim is probably my last one.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because that was in my neighborhood at the time.
Yeah, that was probably early 2000s. I want to say
it goes back a ways.
Omaha is 2022, so maybe we'll see you out in the cornfields.
Yeah, possibly Omaha. I don't know, wants to go to Nebraska, but okay. They keep picking these cities in the middle of summer. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Who's coming up with this? That's one conversation. I know it's contentious. Is that I think personally, IPMS nationals they should pick a site or two. Just build it and stick to it.
Oh,
if they can.
Mike, you bring up a funny story. I'm running for the IPMS office that makes those kind of decisions. So
I would say that because all the good shows, I would say this because a lot of the better shows around the world are in the same location all the time.
Exactly.
It makes a huge difference. It really, really does. You know, I would throw my hat into that side of it. Yeah, guys, if you can pick maybe a West and an East Coast, even if you just had two, or just kind of Chicago-esque or somewhere that kind of works for everybody, and just do it, commit to it, do it. And I think you'd have a ton of success with it. I think you did a lot more success with it.
Yeah. Consistency breeds growth. So people like what they
I'm a big believer in that, man. Yeah, definitely. Because I think this is, and that goes to my early comment too. I think about where we're at as a hobby, as a community. You know, I think IPMS in particular, the US version is probably at a point where they're going to self-analyze and can develop and really take some good stuff from other countries and the shows that they do, and like even the Hungarian IPMS show, which is Mosin. That's that conversation of talking to like Gergo, who runs that Sasko over in Hungary. You know, they've got a facility, and that facility is just purpose built for being a great model convention show, and it's the same spot. Same show, consistent, like you said, and built, and it's a fantastic show. And the
town I hear participates and everything. Mm-hmm. It's great.
And that's, to me, that's the one thing. If I'm critical of anything of IPMS USA is nobody really comes here from the rest part of the world to compete. In terms of that would be, if we could bring that as North American, like that element, I would even be willing to throw my hat in the ring as that as like, you know, RSP being participating of that, to pull in some of the talent from Japan and Korea and have that become one of the main travel points in the hobby, because we always talk about going somewhere else. And I'm like, IPMS is always bouncing around and whatever. And I'm like, no, if you guys could really, that I think would be a huge win, just from my experience of bigger shows of like guys, if people from Europe and Asia would fly to this show, like on a routine as a thing, dude, it would be off the chain big deal.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. I think one of the things for American modelers, when you go to the big shows, you miss that diversity of talent. I mean, in Europe, like you said, Shizuoka, where people from around the world converge in this one area. We were fortunate. We had World Expo in Chicago in 2017, I believe. Right. And it was just a taste of it, where you had all those European figure painters that are legit artists that could put their stuff in the Louvre, for crying out loud.
Did the Russians come over?
And the Russians, there was this one Russian lady figure painter. It was like, I could sit there all day.
It's unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
She's an alien from another planet. I don't know what she does. Yeah,
it's crazy. So, I mean, having exposure to that, it's another side of the hobby that I don't think some people within the IPMS circle have seen, because it's truly mind-blowing.
No, I think that's the future. I think there's a really good argument for what we're doing, you know, technology-wise and connecting the dots, especially like with the video podcasts and YouTube and this kind of stuff. And I think, you know, I hate to use the term young blood or fresh blood into IPMS, but you know, there's definitely a contingent that've been there a while and they do things their way, and that's cool. I get it. We're all that way. Grouchy old men. It's cool, but it's, you know, it's. I think there's opportunities for sure to really, and it doesn't. And another thing is, you know, it doesn't have to be all at once. It could be you know, one thing here and then one thing here, then 3 to 5 years down the road in 2025, 2030. You know, it's hit that point. That's the goal. And it's now, you know, like I look at Eindhoven, which is that whatever scale SMC, model challenge, SMC, that was a nothing show. It was just a little tiny weekend show and whatever. And now it's hosting World Model Expo because he consistently ticked all those things you're talking about, John. And you really, I think you've got a good chance to just follow SMC's plan and say, hey,
that's Ivan Crocker, right? He's one of the head judges over there. I think
Ivan's one of the big guys, and that Robert Krombecky runs it. I think manages it with his wife Margot.
Okay,
and then Ivan's a big participant. You know, I think Ivan's out of Malta. I think.
Yeah.
But he comes up and handles. Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of for me what I think when we talk about missing shows, and you know, when I think about like Euromilitaire and Mosin and SMC, then IPMS Nationals, and then Shizuoka. That's one. I mean, that's a mecca for me. I've never been to Japan, and I'm dying to get there and do all that. So yeah.
Yeah. I've been to Japan to check the hobby shops, but I need to go to Shizuoka. Nothing but good things. You know, gentleman from Scandinavia, Pierre Olav Lund, is that?
Yeah, Per Olav. Yeah,
he flies over all the time, and he brings his stuff, and it's like just seeing the country contingents there and the Japanese and their expression in the hobby too is incredibly inspirational.
It's one of the best parts of it, to be truthful, because then you get to meet the actual, you know, fellas behind the scenes and to have a beer with them or whatever and shoot the shit. And we all know that's the best part. So
yeah, exactly. I
miss that more than anything. I got a note from like Spud the other day, you know, John Murphy, you know, I haven't talked to him for a long time. And you know, I see like Spencer Pollard doing his thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that initial core group of say a couple hundred people that really were involved. And then we would travel and see stuff and you know, because it was even for me, it was meeting Adam like at the shows, because we were one of the few North American guys, you know, like would travel to some of these places and go. And I know some of the other guys Like Olaf Kiev, I think went over and lived over there, and now
Yeah.
he's like has come back and kind of said, hey, taking to heart like what you learn over there, and kind of to grow and all that kind of stuff. So it was a huge part of my journey personally. I remember doing stuff and then going to the shows and coming back and going, I'm not good enough. Like having that mental capacity, like, okay, I've got to up my game. Like I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
The Tiger one was my big one for me of redoing it.
Well, I remember
because the challenge is big. Yeah.
Another old school Mike Rinaldi article that I've read. It's not that old school, but your Panzer IV with 88 and the journey to Euro and the story that you told about how that show influenced maybe that model.
I still remember putting that thing down and go, no, it's over in that category. I was like, God damn it! So mad. I was so mad. I was like, come on, because we went into the scratch building category and it was a kit bash. I'm like, dude, I didn't scratch build. I mean, I did like 2 things. I'm like, come on. It was also Stoff Sneyer. He did the first Burger Panzer. It was the Burger Panzer with the flak gun on it. There's a little photo of it. I think somebody's got a kit of it now. Yeah,
Trumpeter or Hobby Boss put it out. But yes, I have that AFE modeler. It's incredible.
We were on the table side by side. We were put into that category together. That was the same. We did the same year together, where I did my 88 on that, and he did his Panther like that, and we both looked at each other and went, just nothing we could do. But that's show stories. Those are contest stories for you, right?
Yeah. I hope Euro comes back. That was always a dream of mine, starting back in the hobby, is going to Euro and maybe winning gold one day. But I know the show's
it went to a spring show a couple years later with a different relatable group of people, slightly different. It's not the same, I understand, but it was in the same location.
Yeah.
I think SMC's taken it over in terms of Euro's prominence. I guess Euro Military's prominence.
Yeah. Mosin and SMC, those are like the two places to hit.
Well, you still have the regionals. So in my opinion, if you look at the idea that Scott said was great little point there, that the US is different. That's totally cool. Well, we've got the regionals. Keep the regionals and then have a premier show. And it doesn't even have to be an annual. It could be a biannual, or even, like World Model Expo, where it's a major show on a certain schedule that we all know will happen, and then have the regionals pick up kind of what the nationals were and build your regionals up. So you have like a West regional, a Central, and an East regional. And then maybe you have those guys come in and say, okay, well, if you've won first at those shows, like you're maybe eligible for a certain category to national, but the national becomes its own Telford, Mosin, SMC, and then build it that way as a consistent location. And this is what it is. And then let your regionals be your movables or whatever, let the clubs vie for the regional. Maybe that's a compromise that works, west of Colorado, these guys, do this deal, Colorado, Mississippi, you guys do, and then east of the Mississippi. I don't know. But that to me makes sense of maintaining American kind of our individualism, if you will. We maintain our freedom, that whole thing. That whole thing is, So, yeah. But I think these are great conversations because I think more than anything, we're at the beginning of something. To me, I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones that it's a new era for scale model building and just as a whole. And it's probably going to, we talked about the golden era a few years ago with all the armor kits popping out and stuff, but now it's the next stage of what's really happening. And this is to me kind of where it's now. Because I think even the paint companies have settled down. Like they've got their identities, they've got their products, everything's kind of cool and calm. And there's enough selections for the customers to figure it out. Kits are great, chemicals are great, tools are awesome. So, and then now you've got the YouTube and the technology and to the comment of print is print dead, or atoms and that whole thing. And no, I can tell you right now, print is not dead at all. Not in the sense, and that's kind of one of the things that I think magazines are going to struggle a little bit for sure. The model magazines, if we talk about that for a second, is they haven't really changed, and I think they're probably, in my opinion, if I'm looking at the editors a little bit, Marcus and Brett and those guys have really kind of even David. I know David took a turn with Mang to kind of settle his stabilize his company partnership with Mang. Developing the magazines out a little bit. Somebody needs to kind of come in and shake it up, something fresh. That's kind of what we tried with Model X a little bit. But book publication for me, honestly, we're okay. I can't make enough of these. The demand is it constantly outstrips what I can produce, and I'll live with that. That's a good place. If I'm going to be in a bad spot, that's a pretty good bad spot to be in. So just figure out production. And I know the other good books that are out there. I know from the Spanish guys in particular, Vallejo, AK, and Ammo. I don't read them too much, but I know the work's good quality. I know the people that they employ and everything. And I think everything's kind of stable with them, so to speak. I think AK's got new headquarters that look pretty snazzy. So, these companies are doing well. which is, I think is good. I mean, good or bad, whether anybody likes them or not. And the reality is for a small company like me is, I'm probably going to, be forced into partnerships down the road with certain things to continue my path, and have my freedom, because modeling's freedom. But yeah, I kind of want to make sure that I'm settled in as kind of what RSP is, and then, what these other companies are. And I don't mind the competition in terms of, friendly competition per se. It's been an interesting journey, my friends. Oh my gosh. Going back, I think about missing links and all that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, you just said it there. For you, it's a business. I mean, you need to make decisions that, are right for yourself, your livelihood, and the business
but
itself.
Also for the customers too. I do want to do the customers the right thing. It's kept me up at night. I'm like, shit, man, what do I do with this? Because it's gotten to the point where sometimes I'm like, if something doesn't happen soon, this is going to turn really, really bad. You try to put out fires on the internet, because they do come up. And I know, Scott, you've been generous with helping me have a voice with that, but it's just been the things that I have to take, a little CBD at night just to sleep for 8 hours to make sure I'm fresh. Those are the things I worry about at the customers, because you hear it. There's, guys will write me emails, and some guys will write me emails that are not very nice. Like, dude, you don't talk to your mom that way, do you? So, I mean, which is fair, we pay money for this stuff. So there's the harsh reality of being in business and what that means. And I've had to toughen up a little bit, but yeah, it's,
well, I think the reality, Mike, is your customers are more than casual customer. You've got fans, and fan is short for fanatic. And I think the reason people get so upset is people really love your product. So when you tell them, hey, I've got a book coming, and they don't get it, they get upset. So it's not always fun, but I think
you can see the transgression of what I say now too, to avoid, giving hard, I have so many people constantly, when's this coming? Like, dude, I don't answer that question. I just literally don't answer that question until that book is like on the truck and Joe has closed the door and he signs it off and he takes a picture and sends it to me. It's the hardest thing is to really manage the customer expectations of when this is all happening, and to be kicked off the train when, stuff goes wrong. I can still remember that it took me about a week to process when I got the prototype from China and the prototype was wrong of Tank Car 3 in early 2019. And I remember looking at this going, this is going to get really bad. It's going to get ugly. And so I had to say, dude, it's so much wrong. I sent it back and they go, we've already printed it. What do you mean you already printed it? And it was just, I can remember that I took like a week, like I couldn't even do anything. It's like, so yeah, there's some stuff in there was like, I should do a book on just the background of like all of that, because that's really uncomfortable. And the shittiest part is the scale model building stopped. And that's the best part of all of this. Yeah. Like, it's to remember that it's the kits, the models and everything. It's all this stuff. And, there's so much to do with it. And I wasn't able to even function. It was pretty rough. So taking on the chin, but you live and learn, right?
It's exciting to see the other side of the corner coming into focus for you. So
it'll be good times. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us again. And hopefully we'll be doing this again sooner rather than later. And
yeah, absolutely.
2021's been exciting for a lot of reasons. We're all excited to move past the pandemic, but it's awesome to see new books being delivered, and can't wait for the YouTube videos.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you'll probably those of you get in the newsletters and stuff. I think there'll probably be one more round this week, and then focus more on what TJ was saying. A little snippet of YouTube. It'll probably turn into a major snippet of just talking about that, and then confirmation of the book publication. The updated schedule for that, and then from there, just cruising through the summer. And then we're gonna have another huge round towards August of all the other new stuff, all the TG books and those things coming in SM 5 and 6. And then there is some new books coming that I just have not talked about yet, but there is 2. I'm hoping if it goes smoothly, there'll be 2 brand new titles, hopefully released before Christmas, or at least at the printer by Christmas time. That's not being announced just yet. So we're, if this all goes well and everything goes well, I should be kind of back to just kind of a normal, Jimmy Jam, just doing my thing, and everybody's happy and cool, and we're just having a good time. So I'm hoping that's what it is.
Well, take care, Mike, and thanks again.
Great. Thank you, guys. Great being here.
Well, as always, that was great to talk to Mike Rinaldi. But moving from one interview to another one. Here's our latest installment of the Modeler's Minute with Kevin Kelley.
Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. We are very fortunate to have Kevin Kelley, a friend of the podcast, joining us for our Modeler's Moment. How are you today, Kevin?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. I also have along with me today TJ.
Hey, how you doing?
As I mentioned, he's a friend of the podcast, friend of mine that I've known for a while in the local area. With that, Kevin, tell us, how you discovered the hobby.
I discovered the hobby through my dad, actually, and I was trying to think about what year it might be, and I had to have been about 4 or 5 years old, so it was probably like around 1968, 69-ish. My dad was an Air Force reservist. He did just a very short stint, and I don't know if that developed his love of aircraft and love of aviation and pretty much all things military, but we were both 12 o'clock high junkies every Sunday morning. We would watch 12 o'clock high at 12 noon on Channel 43 in Cleveland area here. Afterwards, I distinctly remember he was building, it was probably the old Lindbergh weird scale kit, the old Lindbergh B-17. And I
box scale, right?
Yeah, right, box scale completely. And I think I was going to get one at Hobby Lobby. I saw one, they think they still make it, just for nostalgia, but I haven't seen fit to torture myself yet. He was building that on the kitchen table, newspaper on the kitchen table. And I thought it was the slickest thing in the world because it came in green plastic and the landing gear went up and down. And he painted the bottom with some polyester paints. The top was green and the bottom was blue. And I thought that was just like awesome in my 5-year-old self. We just kind of built models a little bit here and there. The first time we actually really got serious about it was when we attended the Cleveland Model Show. And that was being held at one of our local shopping malls at the time. And we got hooked up with some guys from the IPMS Western Reserve chapter in Cleveland here. There's two chapters, John Glenn and Western Reserve. They invited us to a meeting, and then it went from there for several years. I was a junior member. Eventually, one of the president at that time was Andy Vidra, and he asked me to be the junior vice president, which really had no actual responsibilities other than to try and encourage the juniors that were in the club to participate more. Then I lost the hobby a little bit. It wasn't actually due to cars and girls. I built models through my high school years, all the way up until I ended up getting a job as a police officer later on in life. And then that kind of consumed me for about 33 years. And I at the end of my career, I just started getting back into it, actually, through some social media, and that got me interested in some friends.
When was that time you got back into it?
I got back into modeling about 4 years ago. One of my duties on the police department was to interact with the public and a lot of community outreach. I was the assistant chief at the time, and so I was able to go on Facebook, and we had a lot of community groups. So I was able to get to a lot more people through social media on Facebook and our local community groups. One of the fellows on one of the community groups messaged me back and forth. We somehow started getting talked about hobbies, and he builds fire trucks. He built John Griffin. He builds fire trucks and some other models, and he's got some disabilities. He doesn't get out of the house and that, but he ended up putting me in Darren's group, Grumpy Scale Modelers. Right around the first of the year, they were having a group build, out-of-the-box build. I, for some reason, thought maybe I should try that with some of the stuff. I didn't have a stash left except for about 3 models. I had, and one of which was an old 72nd scale Hasegawa Focke-Wulf, which I kept because I remember when I built it, it was such a good kit. I ended up building that kit, and about halfway through, it ended up being one of the, the weekly cover pictures, model of the week type of thing. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Modeling in social media was completely a new thing for me. I was like, wow, this is a whole new world to this. And I started getting back into it. Due to work, I was having some PTSD issues as well that I really kind of didn't realize at the time. After going through that at work and with your home life, I kind of realized that modeling really, really helped control some issues with that. Not solely, you still have to get professional help in that as well. But the modeling really, and it still is a great help today. I started getting back into it then kind of like as a fluke, and it's really been the rabbit hole since.
No, that's awesome. That's wonderful to hear. And especially with social media, today, I think a lot of people maybe look down on social media, but it has really benefited the hobby in that regard, because that's certainly, I think, how we met first, through exchange of private messages. And then we had the opportunity to meet, I think was the first show we met up at Amps in Buffalo. Was that it?
No, actually, I met you at the first Cleveland Model Show that I went to, which was the probably Cleveland Model Show 22 or something like that, which was, I just posted a pic on my page again. That Stewart that I built. Right,
yes.
right.
Now I remember. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And, I had been kind of seeing you and some of the other people on Facebook that had been posting and everything. It was the first contest that I've been back to since I've been back in the hobby, 20 plus years. And I entered that. I kind of look at model contests. If I go to a model contest, I want to look at models. I didn't think I was going to be competitive or anything. And it was kind of like a penny ante poker game, just so it makes it interesting,
Mm-hmm.
So I brought that, set it on the table. I thought I was entering the out of the box category, and I actually entered it in 1/35th scale, the biggest, turreted vehicles. And I ended up coming in second place, surprisingly enough. And I was kind of standing by my model in a tizzy because I was unexpecting that. You came over and like, wow, I judged this category and I really like the paint on this. And I knew who you were. You didn't know who I was. And I was kind of like, hamana. This is John Bonani. He's really good.
Jeez. Oh, God.
So, I was kind of, I was a little starstruck probably there at the time of that. And, but John, you guys are all just, all modelers, we're all just regular guys in that. So, and that was really, really encouraging to me. And that was the first time we met. Then we messaged back and forth a little bit. And I saw you at Amps in Buffalo, which was my second contest. So.
And then we just saw each other a couple weeks ago at the Bunker Brawl out in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania.
It was great. It was so good to be back and do something. It was so nice.
Yeah. So for TJ and our listeners, it's interesting. This one guy hosted a model show out in the middle of nowhere. It didn't have a lot of vendors. It wasn't very prestigious, but it's one of the best shows I've been to because of the camaraderie there and the social aspect.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think we spent all morning just kind of BSing and going over each other's models, and it was really a good time, almost an expanded club meeting.
Yeah, it was nice. Actually, I build mostly armor now, and I build aircraft just for my own pure entertainment. I know that I'm never going to be competitive with aircraft, but I still have that love of aviation that won't quit, and I build to what I call my shelf standard, which is if they look okay to me on my office shelf, that's all that counts. I feel more comfortable usually judging aircraft because of that. So when I was able to judge with you and Dustin Diaz, it was really nice because I got a little bit of a lesson in judging armor that day, which was the first time I judged armor, which was, I wasn't sure I wanted to judge armor because I kind of am comfortable not knowing what I'm supposed to do, just doing what I like,
Yeah. And I really liked our approach to armor judging at that event too. It wasn't, I felt we didn't take it too seriously. And what we looked for was rewarding the modeler, not detracting them. I thought we focused on, hey, he did this well, so that's, deserving of X, as opposed to these errors and pulling it down. So it was a great time.
As did I. And I like that general gold, silver, bronze theory of judging better than, and both have their place. And for both reasons, better than first, second, third. It just suits me a little bit better. I kind of want to know where I'm at with what I did. And I kind of just like that. I don't feel like it takes very much longer. And I really like in amps when you get, you don't get a whole book report on what your feedback is. You get 2 or 3 sentences worth of feedback, but I think that's extremely valuable.
That's the one thing I've talked to the guys, even on the podcast, at the IPMS Nationals, we won't see that kind of feedback.
Right.
Again, sometimes it's a good system. Sometimes it isn't. That's a hot debate. I guess we don't need to go into it.
No, sir. It is. It is. And I've followed those and enjoyed them. Enjoyed the popcorn as well. But I think there's a place for both of them. And as long as you know what you're going into and that's why I like with amps. That's the rules, just like with IPMS. That's the rules when you enter, right? And that's fine.
I want to hit on a figure that you mentioned earlier, Andy Vidra, someone that I had the opportunity to meet when I was super little. I don't remember much, but I do remember a few conversations with him. You definitely had more interactions with him. For our listeners, could you talk about Andy Vidra and maybe what he meant to you and the hobby for that matter as well? And
yeah, Andy was a World War II vet. He was a POW of the Japanese during World War II. And he as well as a great many of the members of the Western Reserve Club that took me and my dad under their wings were veterans of everything from World War II all the way up through Vietnam, which I kind of see as a common theme. A lot of vets like modeling, right? But he was a really enthusiastic and passionate about the hobby and doing things right. And I think that he was influential with a lot of people in Northeast Ohio here, where I'm from, maybe even a little bit towards where your home club was in the Pittsburgh area as well. So I distinctly remember not only just going to the club meetings and getting just general encouragement, but we would have meetings over at everybody's house. And that was our business meeting. My air quotes, you guys can't see them. The business meeting, which was the first Monday of every month. The third Monday, which is still the third Sunday of every month, which is still our regular meeting day, is the club meeting. And the business meeting was kind of just an excuse to get together and drink beer and BS and have fun. And Andy, he had a lot of memorabilia, as did a lot of the other guys in his basement. He had an actual ejector seat in his basement. It was inert, didn't have the charge in it and everything. But I remember as a 15-year-old, these guys that basically kind of let me into their world, sitting in the ejector seat because I was the only one that would fit in it. Believe it or not, those things are surprisingly small. Drinking beer and talking to all and listening to war stories from all of Andy's war stories, from getting shot down as the last plane that was supposed to be leaving Bataan, getting stuck and put back into the infantry. And he was a left-hander, and he was like, what do? You can't shoot the Springfield, so they put you in charge of the BAR. He's like, I never shot a BAR in my life. What do you do when you're the BAR guy? You put you on point. I'm an aircraft mechanic, and he had some incredibly moving stories, but just a really good guy. Those Monday night meetings were something else.
So back to modeling, you mentioned you're an armor modeler. What are you working on right now?
So actually, I'm helping my 5-year-old grandson with a King Tiger tune tank right now.
Nice.
As armor goes. So he cuts. We're working on a couple of them. He likes to play with them, so they don't usually last. He cuts the parts out and tries to sand down the screw gates, and then he doesn't have enough hand strength, so I'll help stick them together, and then he'll paint that one a little bit later. So I'm working on that. I've been wanting to pull out the Crusader, but I've been looking at TJ's posts, and I've been like kind of awestruck. I don't think I can do that hand camo like as good as he does. So that hand painted, that was pretty awesome.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and that was like, man, what a feathered edge. That came out great. Did you put any purple or anything in that, or is that just straight black?
No. So I used MRP SCC 14 blue black. I've pissed some people off that John and I know. And John, I'm gonna have to call you out on this because he agrees. I'm not the biggest fan of MRP paint for armor. It's a great paint. It sprays so nice, and the color selection is fantastic. I love the colors, but they have no opacity, and they take forever. And I am super impatient when it comes to painting, especially base coating, because that's my absolute least favorite part of that and priming. Those are the two things I hate more than anything else in modeling. But over that lighter color, the black just went down so smooth. Yeah, it's like a weird. It looks. I don't really see the blue in it. Maybe like a little bit, but no, it's just the blue black, and then I lightened it with. I think I use Insignia White, also by MRP, which is like I think it's a Air Force color or a Army Air Corps color that they, I guess for markings. I don't know. I'm not an airplane guy, so I'm not really sure. I just happened to I bought it for an X-wing project that I did. And yeah, that was it. That's all I did.
Yeah, it came out great.
Thank you.
It's so much that I think I'm going to wait until yours cools off a little bit before I do that.
No, please don't. No, I mean, try it. That's the second freehand camo I've done, and it was blood pressure raising for sure. Because yeah, it was difficult, and there's a lot of areas I don't like, and if you look closely, you can see it, but taken as a whole, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. But thank you so much.
No, it looks good. I have a diorama I've been kind of pecking away at that. I want to do a haunted tank diorama with another Stewart, and I listened to the last interview with Adam Weiler, and one of the things that he talks about doing, I do a lot of also. I'm not obviously anywhere near Adam Wilder type of building, but I sit and look at my models and look at what I'm doing and turn them around. I have one of those Tamiya turntables, and I set it up and I'll turn it and look at it. I might spend an hour looking at something and thinking about how to do something, and then work on it for maybe 5 minutes, and that's my night. I try and get in about an hour a night in at the bench just to make sure I get time in. I try and come at it as I'm not an artist. I try and come at it from a more artistic aspect of it and what's going to look good, and really trying to get into the diorama phase that interests me. Even just a regular static model, I feel like I have to put a base on it to make it look a little nicer. It seems like it's kind of naked now if I have just a model sitting there without one.
Bases is something that Scott keeps pushing me to do, and I probably will. I mean, I can do them because I paint like Warhammer stuff, and they all have bases. Right. So, like, I understand like the theory of how to do it. It's just the way I look at it. Like, if I spend weeks or months on a build and I finish it, then I gotta extend that build even longer before I can like take a picture of it and say, "Hey, it's done." So it can be done, even though it's already done. It's like, I just can't do it.
I found that if you can make it look really nice, and I'm sure you find that with the Warhammer stuff without a whole ton of effort. But if you want to really make it look nice, for me, at least for me, it takes a lot of effort. So I would agree with you. I just finished a T-34 that really is probably a static model, but I considered it a diorama. And I spent about as much time on that base composing that stinking thing, and I made like 3 separate. They weren't paint mules; they're like base mules. I made 3 separate bases trying to get the different techniques. I'm happy with it. I don't know if anybody else is, but I spent as much time on that stinking base as I did the whole kit itself in the first place. So
I saw it at the Bunker Brawl. I really liked it. That was Tamiya's 48 or Tamiya's 48th or Hobby Builds?
Yeah, Tamiya was 148th. Yeah.
Going off of that, maybe could you talk about some of your influencers for the hobby, and even maybe back when you started to, when you first got in the hobby, and then how it's evolved today?
Back in the day, it was absolutely, we couldn't just pull up even a website to look at pictures of everybody's models. So it was shows and club meetings. And I remember we used to travel a little bit. I distinctly remember going to one of the IPMS Roscoe Turner shows, and that was the first time I ever saw Star Wars. That was when Star Wars was released, and there was the theater in walking distance. And when the judging was going on, one of the other younger guys we weren't judging, we walked across the parking lot, watched Star Wars twice. And I was like, wow, this is... I came back and I was like, the thing, those were my basic inspirations when I started off. And when I came back, social media really has been great. I think that the only thing back in the day that would have, of course, all of us from that age group, Shep Payne, the Monogram series with the when they would include the diorama flyer with all the B-17. I had that B-17 kit, never built it. I just looked one. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I looked at that multiple times. That was one of those things when you're, I got to wait till I get better, before I build this. And I never did. And I think Scott mentioned, what's your plan? What's your plan to get better? Build it. But now with social media, it's great. The Adam Wilders, I'm kind of a YouTubeaholic. I really like watching the Mike Rinaldi videos and Dave Brown from Hornet Hobbies. I don't know. Yeah.
I love those videos.
Oh my gosh, that box of the battlefield. And I think that the reason I like those the best is the theory behind how they're doing things, and the theory behind, you're not just going to grab a paintbrush and a toothpick and start splattering spatter marks all over the place. Where are you going to put it? How are you going to put it? With Mike Rinaldi, with his, oil paint rendering and the mapping. When I make a base, I use fish tank rocks. They're like purple and fluorescent orange and everything. You look at my stuff before I put the black paint on it, and it's like somebody threw up on it. It's really But then you get everything harmonized, and whatever looks like it might work good is what I put on there. So it doesn't matter what color it is. I get a lot of the model railroading scenic materials in that. I paint everything because I think that those colors are just too stark most of the time. They're just too bright. It's hard to get them where you want them. And you can dry brush a little bit of highlights on some of the grass. I got to get a static grass applicator. That's my next thing.
The Dave Brown videos is it
Barbican?
Yeah. He's got a great series on bases, and that's one I keep going back to because, as you guys alluded to, that's an area that I need to up in my game because and he gives a great step by step. And like you said, it's not as professional as like a night shift, but it's more casual, and I can relate to that. It's almost like a conversation where we're sitting at the bench and I'm watching it at your standard distance. So it's really good.
I feel like I learned something from pretty much all. I've watched all the standard ones, of course, Night Shift. That most recent when he made the barn, I was like, I feel like I'm a magician watching somebody doing a sleight of hand trick when he did that thinking
the time lapse.
I was like, It was like somebody doing a 3-card Monty. I was waiting for him. I was like, what's going to happen next?
That barn is just, I think, John, you said in one of the group chats, that's the best scale model video you've ever seen. And
Best.
Yeah. I mean, that's up there.
Especially
that's a step above. I mean, it really is.
Right.
Yeah.
I even think I learned from, I when I first started, Andy's hobby, his enthusiasm. Goodness gracious, Andy's enthusiasm at the time, he was just putting out the videos, and that gave me a lot of encouragement to try a lot of those different techniques. My goal when I first started was every time I build a model, I'm going to try something different on it, and I think it's benefited me. Sometimes they look great, sometimes it didn't look great.
Yeah. I think a lot of self-serious modelers, they won't pass up a chance to like shit on Andy's videos.
Oh yeah.
They shouldn't, because like the dude just loves what he does. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we all do this, right? Like,
he's literally balls out having fun with everything he's doing. Yeah, and
he'll freely admit, like, hey, this is what I produce. Like, this is it. And he's happy with that. And that is awesome. Yeah, and even as someone who always strives to elevate what they do, I appreciate that. And on top of that, if he builds a kit, he shows you everything he's doing when he builds it, and he'll find things that are like, hey, you should watch out for this. And at building a kit, that's invaluable. If someone else is like, hey, this one part might be tricky, you might have to do this, like, there's value in that. There's value in everything to begin with, but like that especially was like, okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love his videos as well, so much so when I went to the IPMS Nationals in Phoenix, I went over to his shop, met him, super nice guy. I mean, I don't think he ever gets mad, even when building like a Hobby Boss kit for that matter. So I can't understand how positive he is. And it's contagious too. I think that's the biggest thing, is that kind of attitude in the hobby and in YouTube videos, a huge motivator. I mean, people, if people are happy doing the hobby, it rubs off. And I love meeting him in person. I even bought one of his models. I bought one of the half tracks he built. Super. It was like he sold it to me about the cost of the kit. He's like, yeah, I build so many, and people love them. I'm willing to share them and take it home, because I run out of room, and if you can look at it on your shelf and be inspired, that's the most important thing. So I really love that attitude. Like you said, and his videos obviously show other people do that too. So yeah, it's a huge motivator.
Yeah, it's just, it's nice to see enthusiasm. Again, that's like going back to shows. I go to shows because I like to see models. I don't care if you think your model's good enough or not. Bring it. I want to see it. I bring what I have, even when it's not like I'm not worried about winning something. If I win something, that's great. But I want to see models. That's the whole purpose. I get a lot of inspiration. It's nice to talk to people, meet new models. It's a great opportunity. I kind of look at it, it's a model show. And part of the model show is a model contest. There's also the vendors room. There's everything else. The contest is not the reason for being to the show. It's a model show, kind of like the old rendezvous type of thing.
Yeah, and that's what all the guys that I'm with on the podcast, we're going out to the Nationals, and it's like, just bring whatever you got. The Nationals, when they do judge at a high standard, but still bring your work, throw it on the table. I make sure I can fit. There is no room in my carry-on. I just try to pack it full of models, essentially. There's no wasted space. More models on the table, the more the better. Also, it's any given Sunday. You might think your model's not that great, but again, I mean, the example in Cleveland, I thought your Stewart was awesome. Obviously, you got second place. So I think people are super critical of their work. I know I certainly am. But yeah, it's any given Sunday out there. So bring it, have fun. And you've probably gotten this as well, where if someone gives you a compliment, that's worth way more than an award, because I'd rather take it from some person that, hey, that's really cool. I'd take that over anything, because that's the most important.
I just like it. If you like it, I like it. I like that. I like looking at that. I've told, a lot of times I've seen somebody that I've went back to a model 2-3 times, whether they won or not. I'm like, man, I just like that. I like looking at that. Thanks for bringing it. Or I like looking at that. What did you do? And then I like to hear that and maybe learn something as well. So,
you never know. You could inspire somebody and probably not even know it, because anyone can inspire anyone. You don't have to be Adam Wilder or Martin Kovac to inspire somebody else, right? Like, everyone, you started somewhere. So there may be a guy that's his first show and he's really unsure of himself, and you put something down on the table and he looks at it and maybe doesn't know who does it, but 6 months from now when he's building that same kit, he's like, oh, that one I saw that show, that was cool. I should try to be like that. Or maybe he took a picture of it with his phone and that's what he uses as a reference, and you may think that your model wasn't great, but there's someone else out there that's like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And that's worth more than I think anything anyone could ever give you for, building a model.
Yeah, I agree.
And just to add to that, we even hit on that with Adam Wilder in the last interview, where he's like, I just love looking at models. I love going on Facebook, and there are guys out there again, but we've talked about here. They're not a Rinaldi, but they're bringing ideas and an approach to the hobby that's really inspirational, whether it's vehicle design or camouflage patterns, that it's just purely unique and can draw those inspirations out of people and motivations to do something different.
Yeah, I have so doggone many Facebook pages that I follow, people that I follow, I cannot keep up with. You guys are talking about Instagram and Twitter and blah, blah. I got to stick with just Facebook. I can't keep up with what the good models that are showing up on Facebook.
It's hard.
It is. Yeah, it's crazy. So how much is
it? And as annoying as it is, like, there's a logarithm working in the background thinking, oh, he wants to see this.
Yep.
Right. And so there's stuff that's probably getting filtered out that is amazing, that unless you are specifically looking for it, you may not see it.
Right. I had joined Just Making Conversations, that model officers mess.
Yeah.
And so when you guys did that 48 and 48, I would have been like, wow, I didn't even see it because the logarithm did not pick.
Yeah.
I like I really like their podcast a lot. I feel.
Oh yeah, James and Malcolm do.
Yeah,
it makes me giggle because they just have a way about them that is just, as an American, is vastly entertaining to me.
It's like the Monty Python of modeling. I think I commented on their page at some point in time that, like, your podcast I listen to, and I'm like, man, I want more. Their podcast, I sit back and I kind of like, man, that was a really good listen. I'm very satisfied when I'm done. It's very, very nice. And props to Malcolm for what he does with the guys with helping his models for heroes over there too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. I know we're thinking of charity things, but next year they do it again in March. And hey, I'd give you an open invite to join the Posse and be on our team for that build.
Yeah, that'd be swell. I'd love to. Yeah,
if you want to do the 48-hour build, and certainly I'd throw it out to any other people out there that are curious and want to join. Is you can be a member of the Posse and maybe work towards a great cause.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it until when you guys covered it, and I was like, wow, that was awesome. That was great.
Yeah, and like you said, his cause is great, and I've often thought, is that something maybe we could do in the future at some point? Not on the level maybe of Models for Heroes. And I know the IPMS does some activities, but that might be an opportunity in the future for the U.S. modelers to do.
Yeah, I don't know, the VA, maybe if they have anything that's for donations and that. It's helpful. It's extremely helpful, and it's hard to describe how it works. I think that when you're having kind of like when you're feeling in a little bit of an episode. For me, it's the construction part that works really well, and that's one of the reasons why I particularly like modeling armor, because there's no visible seams. Also.
No, yeah, normally.
Yeah.
But there shouldn't be, hopefully.
Yeah, but literally, for me, the assembly portion really kind of grounds me and settles me back down. And following the instructions, which I know as kids we just threw them away and then like just slapped it together because you'd done so many of them. But finding the part, finding the tree, finding the just concentrating on doing that really helps get me back grounded with where I need to be, and it really, really is extremely helpful with just kind of like focusing yourself. So it's I could see how it works for them. So a lot of people get benefit from that. I didn't know it at the time. Why it wasn't like somebody said, "Hey, try that." It was just I had started doing it when I was having some rough times, and later on I recognized, hey, this is really something that is working for me.
Yeah. So with that, how many models do you see yourself building a year? How prolific are you?
So I'm not John Bonani prolific.
Oh, well.
Nobody is.
I don't have kids, so it's easy.
Hashtag Slammer build is definitely is definitely something I aspire to. I'd like to get one a month done. I think I'm probably going to be about one every 2. I think maybe one every 2 months. Occasionally I'll have an armor piece and I'm working on a Academy F-15 right now. I kind of mummified it where I was masking it earlier, and I'm going to spray the intakes and some of the natural metal on it. Once in a while I'll get 2 or 3 that'll come together all at once and that. But if I get like one done every couple of months, I would be happy. One a month would be my goal. One every couple of months would be great. And the armor seems like it comes together a little bit easier. I kind of look at it, it's like, that's why I was joking when I said all hail Tamiya, but they go together easy for a reason. It gets you to be able to finish a model, which is probably a good business model for them. If you only build one a year, it probably isn't, they're probably not going to make as much money off of you. It's a canvas, the model itself is the canvas. I like to put some additional details in that when you can. I like PE as well, not as much as Ian maybe, but I like PE. But and some of the resin details, but it's just to make it look good eventually when it gets there. So it's the canvas and how you work on everything after you get it assembled. The assembly is the therapy, and the painting and the putting together something with the base is the enjoyment aspect of it for me.
Yeah, the expression. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
With that comment, next steps in your modeling, what areas do you want to focus on and grow? Is it that base work? Is it painting? What are your thoughts there?
I really want to grow in pulling it all together, and the dioramas as far as having a realistic look to it, but it also look artistic. In addition to modeling videos, I watch a lot of art videos. I like Impressionism a lot, and I would really like to try and have a well-composed, or not a well, I would like to compose dioramas well with some artistic principles, with whether it's the law of thirds, golden mean, whatever, to make it come together and have something look really great, but you're not really sure why.
Yeah.
Even just on the base, with a couple of little accessories there.
Yeah.
You really want to compose it so that it comes together and it's like, yeah, this is good. This I enjoy looking at it. I liked it.
Yeah.
My goal, when somebody goes up to one of my models at a contest or whenever they see it, is to go, I like that. I enjoyed looking at that. That's my goal. When I was driving to work and you guys came up with this concept and you're like, our first model is going to be Stanley George, I literally fist pumped on my way. I love that guy. He has such a gentle enthusiasm. And I don't mean like that in a weird way. I mean, because you got to be tough to be gentle, I'm just very flattered that you guys would consider me and have be interested in what I have to say. So thank you very much.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure. Kevin, it all goes back to, we want people that love the hobby, that are passionate about it and love to share it. And I think, obviously you check all those boxes and more, because that, I think, brings motivation into the hobby. It inspires people. And yeah, it fuels the love for the hobby. And that's the most important thing we're looking to achieve here at the podcast, is bring more people together, expand the hobby.
Hey, thanks, TJ. It was really nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Won't be at Nationals this year. My wife's not ready to go to Vegas. I'm not going to Vegas without her. So maybe another one at some point.
Omaha, I think Omaha is next year. So maybe Omaha.
Yeah, I think we'll be all back to normal and we'll be able to do some traveling. And I usually have the summers mostly off, so I can work around that. So it's good. Hey,
one last thing I did want to hit so we don't forget. Cleveland Model Show. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I am glad you asked about that. So Cleveland Model Show is, I believe, November 7th this year. It's going to be at Kirtland High School. It is listed in the IPMS USA's upcoming shows as well. It's a great time. We have a really good raffle. We usually have a pretty decent sized vendor room there. I say we, like I have, a mouse in my pocket. I'm not the guy that does all this stuff. There's a whole committee that has run this for forever, and I just attend and enjoy and help out wherever I can. But it's a great show. I'm anticipating, like most of the other shows that are coming up this year, they're going to probably have a lot of subjects that, backlog of people having built and that. And I know you attend it. I know it's a good time. If you want to show up, like to see as many people come out as possible.
Yeah, I know some other friends of ours at the podcast. Aaron Cook from Columbus goes. Hopefully he can drag Ian along. And then certainly we have a huge contingent from Pittsburgh that comes over. So I do agree. It's an awesome show. And I'm pretty sure some of the Canadians come down as well. Now, I don't know what the border situation will be like at that time, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Dave Forrest there, who's on the IPMS Barbican videos. And then obviously Harvey Lowe has been there before too. So maybe we can hopefully see some Canadians.
That would be great. There's a lot of special categories. Best model sharing an NHL team, best Century Series fighter, best French armor, best topless civilian vehicle. Don't keep it clean. Best camouflage ship, best aviator figure, best TV series sci-fi subject, best Roaring Twenties, and best Southern Hemisphere subject. So if you're interested in trying to figure out something for if any of your models fit a category, start building for a special, that's a good time to start now.
Sweet. Well, again, Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Well, that was fun getting a chance to talk to Kevin. It's the first time I got to speak to him, and I really enjoyed it. Doug, what does our listener feedback look like this week?
All right. We're going to start out with one that we missed one episode ago from Tyler Shepard. He wrote in with some great feedback. Hello, longtime listener here. Just wanted to say how amazing this podcast is. Love hearing about what everyone is working on and all the interviews. Have to say one of my favorites was the roundtable discussion about Star Wars modeling. I've started a new Instagram account, Living History with Plastic, to combine my love of scale modeling and World War II reenacting. I just finished my first build, which was the Tamiya M8 Greyhound. P.S. If you're still doing hobby shop shoutouts, Model Cave in downtown Ypsilanti is a must-see if you're ever in the area. Mom and pop shop and floor-to-ceiling models with a great selection and great prices. Steve Builds Panzers says, great work with your podcast. I'm 2 episodes behind, but the interviews are impressive, more valuable than any article in a magazine.
Thanks for that, Steve. Really appreciate the comment. Next, we have Bass Slots, and he says, Dear Plastic Posse, thanks for another great podcast. I did hear Chris talking about SMC. Boss writes in and says he was part of the show and knows the master behind the show really well. And he writes, if we're interested, he can drop Robert Krombecky a line to see if he'd be interested in coming on and talking about the show. He also says, I suspect he is a very good guest for your program. Keep continuing the great work and best regards. Thanks, boss. We really appreciate that. And yes, if you wouldn't mind connecting us, that'd be great. And we can set up an interview and learn more about that awesome show that's going on in the Netherlands.
Thanks a lot, Bass. That's great feedback. Awesome.
All right, Los Kelly is back and says, great podcast. Keep up the great work, guys. Just thought I would share my experience of model photography. Whilst I endeavor to shoot whip photos in a simple DIY plastic card stage on the bench, I'm continually trying to improve my photography on finished projects. For those who don't own a DSLR or a light box, it is possible to get reasonably good shots by making a simple card backdrops and shooting with your phone. What is important is that you get the best lighting setup as you can. A decent camera is worthwhile investment, and the knowledge to utilize software such as Photoshop invaluable, but good shots can still be obtained without either. You just need to spend a little time experimenting, and he also sent us some pictures of his work as well to demonstrate his method. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
All right, James Skiffins from Just Making Conversation said, great episode 22. Really enjoyed the show. Well done, guys, and keep going. Thank you, James. Matt McDougall wrote in to say he enjoyed our basic photography chat and made several excellent suggestions as well. Well worth a look over at our PPP Facebook page. We also had a great number of really great shots and write-ups of people's photo setups. Check those out as well. Some really great setups, some great photographers in the Posse. Eric Daglish says, hey guys, I've just started listening to the Posse and I can't tell you how much I love the show. Actually, you can. Tell us. Please tell us. Listening to the podcast while modeling is a revelation. Thanks to Adam Wilder for suggesting it in one of his posts, and thank you guys for a great show. Well, thank you, Eric. We really appreciate it. Glad you're here. Dave Paisley writes, it took me 3 driving trips, I mostly get to listen while driving, to finish the Adam Wilder interview, but it was well worth it. What a fascinating guy. Loved the travelogue angle, and even though I'm a 99% airplane guy, all the armor guys have got me buying stuff and figures for a market garden theme. And I loved his take on whether modelers are artists. Of course they can be. If someone painting a bowl of fruit is an artist, well then, I'm sure the still life artists have their equivalent of rivet counters too, though. So that's very true. Thank you, Dave. And I think that's it for our feedback this week. Thank you all so much, and keep the feedback coming. All right, time for some social media shout-outs. What do we have on the Posse today, TJ?
Well, today I thought we could feature a YouTube channel that I found not too long ago. He goes by Matt E. Models, and that's what you can find him on YouTube as. And I think he's been around for a couple years. Where I noticed him is a couple months ago, he started doing a Churchill build, and he was doing the Mark III AVRE. I call it an AVRE. I don't think that's how you actually say it, which is that's one of my favorite variants of the Churchill. It's the one with the big petard mortar of some kind. So yeah, that kind of caught my eye, and he's an armor guy. He's been doing I think recently he's been doing a Tiger 1 from Dragon, I think. I understand it to be a pretty good kit.
Dragon. Yep. Yeah, TJ, that Churchill that you're talking about, that's a really, really great build. I've enjoyed that one as well.
Yeah, Matt E., he's been around a while outside of YouTube. I've recognized his builds. He's been published in a lot of magazines and posts quite prolifically on Facebook. He's a crazy fast builder. He's like TJ Speed, and he's got really high quality work too.
Yeah, I think when I found his videos, I had recognized a couple of those builds, I think from Facebook too, or maybe Instagram, one of the two. Yeah, I definitely was like, oh, I've seen that before. So yeah, he's got a relatively small channel. I would suggest checking it out. It's got pretty good videos. I liked them. Okay, now we're going to hop over to Facebook, and this was a page that I recently found, and he goes by Camo Tanker on Facebook. I think he's on Instagram too, because his KV1 looks pretty familiar. I feel like I saw that on Instagram too. John, I think you also like his page over on Facebook. Also an armor guy. And I think his last completed model is the Trumpeter KV1, and he did a pretty good job on it. I really liked it. It's a very busy finish, but busy in a good way. It's very heavily weathered and did some battle damage on the turret and added stowage and little splashes of color here and there. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty sharp. I think there's some pretty clear Adam Wilder influence in his work. Also, last year he finished a Trumpeter KV2. You guys seen that? It has kind of the angular whitewash camouflage on it. That was a really sharp build as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is. I'm looking at it right now.
That's what I remember his work from. I think that build specifically brought me to his page and made me like it.
Yeah, and I've been following him for a while as well, and he also has done several King Tigers. I think at least 3 or 4.
Yeah,
different King Tigers and variants of King Tigers. I think he's a big fan of big tanks. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, some of his older builds, he's got a Easy 8 weighed down with a bunch of sandbag armor that looks cool, and he's even got, I'm not a Warhammer dude, so TJ will have to tell me what it is, but it looks like he's got some of that on there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the little orc. Those are called killicans. They're essentially like a robot suit for an orc to stomp around in. They're ridiculous like most things Warhammer.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
So for our Instagram shout out is a guy named Ben Cantor. He goes by @MetalAF Miniatures on Instagram. So I found out about this guy because he was on another podcast called Trapped Under Plastic, which is 2 miniature painters that host podcasts. They've been around, I think, for about a year. Pretty interesting podcast. I enjoy listening to. It's one of the handful that I do listen to. They had him on this week's episode as a third guest, or as a guest host. They were saying that he was a really good painter, so they put a link to his Instagram in the description. So I went and checked it out, and holy cow, pretty good painter. I think is a little bit of an understatement. The dude is like ridiculously good, and he does a lot of larger scale figures. I don't know what the scale is. Maybe 54 millimeter, maybe 70 millimeter. I'm not exactly sure. And also like Warhammer type stuff too, but mainly like busts and large scale figures like that are from the waist up, I guess.
His blending is stunning. I really like his use of color. He brings a little more color into the palette than some other painters do, and I really like the effects that he gets.
Yeah, so you can tell his style is, I don't really know if it has an official name, but it's kind of what a lot of the best artists are doing right now in miniature painting. It's almost like pointillism. It's not, but it's very similar where it's, and I think we talked about that with one of our guests. I don't remember if it was Christoph or maybe Luther, but like the style now is heavily textured paint layers where a couple of years ago, the high level painters, it was all about as smooth a blend as you can get. And now it's more make these things look real. So like real skin has texture to it. So that's what they paint. And he is a master at that. It's so good. He has a series of, I don't know what they are. They're women of some kind. They call it I think they're called the Death Cult, but they're just like, I don't know. And the one with red skin is the one that I like the most because he has the contrasting like turquoise face paint and body paint like on her arms, and it just like bounces off of the figure. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, his stuff's amazing. And I'm happy to see that since we talked, he's gotten like 600 more followers. So
yeah, because that's the other thing that struck me. He had like 1,500 followers on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
His Instagram isn't terribly old. I mean, has less than 100 posts, but given his level of work, I was shocked. Like, I don't understand why he doesn't have like 20,000 followers.
Yeah, I'll make a bold claim that he's an artist. Based on his work, he's an artist.
Yeah. No, that's... How dare you say something so bold yet so controversial? No, this dude is like legit. And I don't get impressed a whole lot by miniature painters just because I do a lot of it, but it's not really my love like I would with an armor build. But I saw his, and that's when I sent it to you guys. I'm like, you guys need to look at this.
What I think is impressive is he seems to be as comfortable painting like a space marine where he's doing armor and metal as he is with skin and skin tones and faces. I mean, it just doesn't seem like he has an issue with either one. He's really, really good.
And I also think he's a 3D modeler as well. I think he's printed some of these busts that he's painted.
You know, I got a comment too. What I'm most impressed with is, you know, there's a figure, and I can share this on our Facebook page so our listeners can see what we're referencing in terms of photography and what subjects we're talking about. But he has one. It's a lady standing on what looks like, you know, a guy that works at Gringotts Bankhead. You know, the kind of a trollish looking guy. But what I'm most impressed with is not only how he, you know, shifts the gradients and the color itself for blue, light to dark, but he goes from red to blue. And I just like going back to the woman you mentioned, red to green. I just speechless. I truly am speechless because it's incredible work, true art in my mind. Yeah. So thanks for those, TJ. The last one, you know, I just added as our wild card. It's a modeler that I've followed for a while on YouTube. He goes by Shane Smith Scale Models. I believe it's a gentleman out of the UK, fairly younger modeler. So that's always awesome to see. He's been pumping out content, you know, I'm pretty sure extensively on YouTube. And it's great. Everything from armor to figures, really high quality production. So give him a look, give him a like, or a follow.
When you go look him up, it's Smith is spelled with a Y.
Good call.
Yes, so he is Irish.
Oh, well, thank you for correcting me.
When you brought this guy up, JB, I took a look and I looked at all of his videos. I thought, oh man, TJ's going to like this guy because he does a range of subject, but there's a lot of olive drab in those videos.
Yeah.
So I must confess, I am extremely familiar with his YouTube channel. I've been subscribed for a number of years. I want to say he did I can't remember what I found. I think I just by Googling, when I used to work overnights and all I would do is watch YouTube videos. Some of his were what I found. I don't remember what I was looking for. I think it was something olive drab of some kind. I think it was either a Sherman or something. And
I was going to say that you were Googling olive drab. Just submit it, TJ.
Yeah.
Just own it.
That's probably what I was looking for. Oh, you know what? I think it was the M3 Lee, because I just got that kit. So I was looking to see if anyone else had done one. And he did a review of it. And I think he built it. I don't think he has a video. Oh, he does have a video about it, but that was from only a year ago. But he did a review of it like 3 years ago. That's where I found him.
Yeah, I think he's one of the OGs on YouTube. You know, him, Panzermeister 36, Evan, of course, a friend of ours, and Hemicrobarcus. They were kind of one of the, I think they're part of the original cadre of content producers on YouTube for scale modeling. And I'm happy to see he's still pumping out fantastic videos and the views are climbing on every one. So no, it's good. His Greyhound looks really nice now. I'm excited to see it painted. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you, TJ. I think this section gets more and more interesting every week. I certainly look forward to it. Some of these, you know, content creators are truly fantastic, and I'm happy we can share their work and hopefully get them some more eyes on. So with that, I'll post them on our Facebook page when this episode drops, so you can go like, follow, and listen to everything. With that, now it's time for our episode's main interview segment that Scott and TJ had the pleasure of doing with Christoph Eichorn, aka Trovarion Miniatures. Christoph is an award-winning miniature painter, and he is passionate about helping others improve their painting techniques. So I'm certainly sad I missed this one, but I've spoiler alert, I listened to it and it's great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Welcome back into another Plastic Posse interview. Today, we are very excited to be speaking with Christopher Eichorn, also known as Trovarion Miniatures, one of the best miniature painters out on YouTube. He's got over 3 million views, over 75,000 subscribers. His work is terrific. Really enjoy watching his videos. Christoph, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, TJ, I noticed that he has cats, so you guys have that in common too.
Everyone loves cats. They're the best.
At least everyone should.
In addition to kind of what we talked about, your huge community that you do, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, kind of how you got into miniature painting. It seems to be a real passion of yours. Just let us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird for me because I don't really like to talk that much about myself. Kind of weird to have a YouTube channel, but my main goal, having a YouTube channel under this premise, right? But my goal kind of always was to, just share passion and teach other people and help them to find their own way in miniature painting and in a creative outlet, I guess. So that's basically the reason why I started a YouTube channel.
You've definitely been successful at that. Love your style, like when you critique your own builds, but also when you critique builds that people send you, you offer critique in a way that's really constructive and really, really helpful, especially compared to other figure painting videos that I've seen.
Yeah, so I mean, that comes from my other passion. I studied, or I have a degree in teaching. So my focus there was kind of the didactics of, how do people learn and what do you have to do to make people learn. And I think that helps a lot. And just the most singular thing you can do is to think about and put yourself in the shoes of someone who is a learner, and then just try to help them to reach the next level. And just for that, you have to analyze what is possible for them with a bit of guidance, and where they can, what they can reach, and not to just throw whatever you want them to learn at them and just hope that they catch on, and then maybe you discourage them. So threading the line, I guess, is something that I enjoy doing, or finding that next step. So it's just a natural fit, I think, to do both.
That's really powerful, taking your passion for teaching and then marrying that with your incredible talent for painting.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, on YouTube, it would be better to be an entertainer than a teacher, because, I mean, ask 1,000 people if they want to go to school or if they want to go to cinema, and you're going to get like 999 to say cinema. So, but I'm just working with what is possible and what I can do and what I want to do.
Well, I think you're being pretty humble, because I think your videos are really entertaining too. I mean, I get a chuckle out of your editing, and you self-deprecate a little bit as well. So I think you're pretty entertaining as well.
Thank you. I mean, obviously, it's also a learning thing. I basically try to improve by doing, just like I did with miniature painting. So it's always, I try to put research into what the community wants to see, and I'll try to improve my gear and so on.
So speaking of miniature painting, how long have you been painting miniatures? I don't know if you've talked about that in a video, at least not one that I remember.
Yeah, I think I have it in a video somewhere. I think it's the one where I go back and look at my first miniature. It should be in there. It's hard to remember exactly. It blurs together a bit, but I think it should be 19 years now, in September-ish, something like that. Because back then I started I mean, I have told this story a couple of times, so I don't know if that is interesting at all. But I started in 2002, I want to say. And I started with card games, or I visited hobby stores or whatever you want to call them, where you can get collectible card games. And I just stumbled on these collectible figures, Mage Knight figures. And yeah, eventually I started playing the game, and then I repainted them because they were pre-painted and they looked kind of crappy to me. And I just wanted to get the most out of these sculpts. And so I painted my early armies. And from there, it just developed into what it is now.
Besides, miniature painting for games and things like Warhammer, do you paint figures or busts or other subjects?
Yeah, so I never, I quit Mage Knight really quickly after that because the community kind of collapsed here. But I just kept painting and I just tried to find new, better figures. So I eventually turned to Warhammer. And then, I never played Warhammer. So I always was just painting. I guess I'm lying. I played Confrontation for like 2 years, but that's a skirmish system too. But I always, for like 17 years, I exclusively painted. Maybe 16 years, I exclusively painted, and I paint all scales. Yeah, all scales, all subjects. I guess not so much historical, but I also have historical busts. And I'll also sculpt my own figures. I have my own little range of busts that I also paint. So yeah, anything I can get my hands on, really, that is appealing.
So you're sculpting. Do you have? You said that you are a teacher, correct? Do you have a background in art for sculpting? Because that's to me, it's one thing to paint. It's like the next level to sculpt the thing that you're going to paint.
No, I don't. I'm a science teacher, and I'm self-taught with every creative thing that I do. And sculpting just was the next progression step, because eventually I was working on painting these models. And eventually I was like, maybe I want to redo that pose a tiny bit. So I was re-sculpting the things I bought. And eventually I was sculpting like whole arms or another head or something like that. And it just all came together. Eventually I just wanted to do my own figures, because you're still limited, right? When you're painting someone else's figures, you're kind of limited in the creative vision. And eventually you want to do your own. It's just the next step of creativity for me. It's actually creating something and not just working with something that someone else already poured a lot of ideas into. And you're basically just trying to make his idea more interesting, and a little bit of your idea, put a little bit of your idea into that.
I'm curious, does your YouTube channel, does it drive what you work on, or does it fuel your passion for your hobby, or does it sometimes take away from your time at your bench?
I think there's two sides to that. If you go really far back, the channel started out as a sculpting channel. And I think my first big video was sculpting the Joker boss that I did. And I think I got my first 20,000 subscribers through that. And it would probably have been smart from a marketing view to pursue the sculpting and just do more like mainstream and pop culture sculpts for the channel to get a maximum out of, the views and all of that. And you see a lot of sculpting channels that just are not really teaching you anything, and they're not really particularly good at sculpting. They're just good enough, but they also don't really care to improve. You can see it in the detail work. And they just pump out these pop culture sculpts. And that would have been probably the most profitable route to go with a YouTube channel. But I just wanted to with the sculpting, I want to do my own creative ideas, and they're not pop culture. So they are what I want to do. So they're not really going to be successful in a YouTube environment.
So the hobby is definitely the driving force, your
Yes.
passion for what you do.
Exactly. I think that's a good example. Yeah. And eventually I mean, sculpting's fun and everything, but I just picked up painting again, and then painting took over again. So the channel kind of changed into a painting channel that follows that up.
Let me ask you this. You've inspired TJ and I were both big fans of yours. Who were some of your influences or other artists that you admire, maybe consume some of their content?
Yeah, that's a bit of a hard question because it always leads to me saying I don't consume anyone's content necessarily. And then people call me arrogant and stuff like that. But so if we just shrink it down to miniature painters, the thing is that are on YouTube, the thing is I have so much time on them and experience that it's kind of hard to learn miniature painting stuff from them. I don't really have that much time to watch them, but when I do, the natural thing is to watch them for what they are doing with the cinematics or videography, how they compose their videos and all of that. I mainly watch them for this, right? Because that's where I can learn a lot from Miniac and Squidmar and Midwinter Vinis and all of that. They have a lot of experience with that on me in turn.
Do you do any quote unquote traditional modeling? Do you ever build aircraft or tanks or anything? Like, you have any interest in that?
If the day had more hours, I would probably do it. Because I started doing that like 12 years old. I think I built like 15 airplanes or something like that and one tank. Yeah, I kind of lost interest and I only picked it up again when I was 20. But then I picked it up with the figures, the miniatures. But I would definitely do it. I mean, there's a lot of vehicles in Warhammer and stuff, and that would be like a soft introduction to that again. But yeah, I just don't have the time.
Certainly understandable.
Yeah, but it's really interesting because the techniques differ a bit, and especially my painting style is more, how do you say? So I just like to use acrylics. I don't use that many other products. And it's because that's a fun medium for me to work with. And everything where I have to step out of the way that acrylics handle, to me is like a technical paint, or using the airbrush and stuff like that. It becomes less entertaining, but it also means I have to step out of my comfort zone and try something new. So with vehicles, there's definitely techniques that are different. Maybe not as interesting to me, but that would probably be more of a challenge again.
I'm just curious. Obviously, you're terrific at brush painting. How much airbrushing do you employ when you're painting your miniatures?
Almost nothing. I think with miniature painting, everything you can do with an airbrush, you can more or less do with a brush. So it doesn't mean that you should not use an airbrush, but to me, I can do most of the things that you can do with an airbrush, with a brush. I want to say, at least, the end result, it looks really similar. The way to get there is a bit different. But it's just personal preference. It's not like I hate airbrushing or I don't like it or whatever. Just to me, it's more fun to just work with a brush.
I mean, there is something to be said about just grabbing your miniature and some paint and a brush and just going to town. So I can see where you're coming from.
I mean, to me, it's not so much, and people don't believe me because I've won a couple of competitions, but that was more like a byproduct of just me having fun. To me, it's more about the fun in the moment, and when I create these things, that's what I do it for. I don't do it necessarily for the recognition or the awards. I was completely gone for a couple of years from posting online simply because I wanted to just focus on what is fun to me. And online forums and Facebook groups and all of that have not always been as supportive as they are now. They have been quite toxic for a while. And I just wanted to get out of that and just focus on what is fun, I guess.
It's interesting that you brought that up because I also have noticed a substantial shift towards less toxicity in miniature painting Facebook groups. And I think a big part of that, like Vince Vercellia's Facebook group, is very much not like that. I haven't been a member of that very long, but the painters motivating painters, where you can get honest, good feedback to get better in a non toxic environment. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, especially that group is very honest, and it's a good thing. So let's put it that way. You can try to avoid toxicity by just sugarcoating everything, and that's not the right way either. You want to be able to be honest and not devastate people, and also not make people flame each other. So that's pretty important. And I think Vince Venturella as a group fosters that, and that's good. And that's why it's really valuable.
Speaking of critique and positive critique, I really like the videos that you do on your channel where you look at pictures of minis that have been submitted to you for critique. And I really like the way that you approach that. You're very, very good at being very honest, but also being very constructive and building people up. And even your own videos where you critique your own work, some of even your award-winning pieces, I think that's really good and shows exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah, so I mean, I did not know how people would react to those videos, especially the first one where I talk about my own entries and award winners. But I just think you always have room to improve and to learn as long as you want to. So once you're fine with what you're doing, that's cool too. But if you want to improve, there's always room. However you want to define that improvement, you can also define that for yourself. But yeah, to me, it's just fun learning new things. And for that, I also have to be honest with analyzing what I can improve and where there's room. But yeah, they were quite successful. I did not expect it. I'm going to do it again eventually. The other video where I did other people's work, it just goes back to trying to be a good teacher. Because like I said, you have to find that line. First of all, you have to find what they can do next, and you have to point it out, and you have to be honest about it, because sugarcoating is just not going to make anyone improve. If you're saying, oh yeah, that's fine, no one's going to learn anything from that. But yeah, I mean, I honestly did not expect it to be that successful, and there were quite successful videos, but I guess there is demand for that. And I think a lot of people can learn, looking at the video, they can somewhat see where are they on the spectrum of this video. And that's why I built it up with more basic techniques and more basic paint jobs in the beginning, and then gradually the paint jobs getting more complex, and just anyone can check where they are in that scale, or what's the word,
in the process.
Yeah, or in just the spectrum, I guess. Yeah, and then just word. These advices, and it's also nice when they get better, they can just forward the video and take the next advice, and just actually that's a good way to look at it. I don't know if that answered any question that was posed, but yeah.
No, that's fantastic. I love that video. I thought it was great. I've watched it probably a couple times, both of them, both you talking about your Golden Demon winners, and then helping, critiquing other people's work.
One more thing to add maybe was that when I started the Golden Demon winner video, I had such the way I remembered those entries was really bad. I did not have a good view of what standard they had. I thought they were pretty bad, all of them, because they were 10 years and older. And then just looking at them, I kind of realized, okay, it's not everything was bad. Obviously, there was room to improve, but they were better than I remembered them. So in the beginning, I said, it's going to be an example of everyone started out humble and they're all crap, and then eventually they kind of grew on me again. So my critique was not as harsh as I planned it, but I mean, I don't know what that is teaching or telling, but that was just a fun thing that happened during filming that video.
I think it really demonstrated for me, because the pieces were definitely not crap. That's for sure. But I think it demonstrated that through your eyes, you could see the progression in your work, because, you're looking at pieces that were recognized by your peers, which is really kind of the highest honor any of us can probably hope for, other than maybe our own approval, of course. But I think you're seeing your progression through your own pieces, and your eyes today are so much more experienced than your eyes were 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, right?
Yeah, definitely. The other fun thing was that 2 of those entries, I took them to a competition in 2019, and like 9 years later, they still won an award. So,
I mean, I think that right there can kind of speak for your talent.
I think it speaks more for certain things being more traditional and not as progressive as other aspects, like some other painting competitions. They celebrate more the creativity and innovation, and others are more conservative and celebrating the traditional.
It's interesting that you said that, because I've noticed in probably the last, I'd say at least 5 to 6 years, not necessarily the level, but what is being or winning awards, if you compare it to what was winning awards 15 years ago or 20 years ago, it's like a night and day difference, especially now, because everything's about ambient occlusion and texture and a lot more weathering in miniatures than when you look at 20 years ago, where it was crisp, clean, tight lines with no texture. I'm assuming you've probably noticed this as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, there was just so many people building on each other and just pushing each other during the early 2000s, and so the last 20 years definitely, that the styles and ideas that developed just improved so much. And nowadays it's so difficult to win awards because the standard is just so different, and you almost got to innovate to win an award these days. You cannot just do what is considered correct and what's the word, like the standard thing to do, or a level that you reach, and then you can say that's a complete model. You almost have to innovate, like, I don't know, maybe with the backgrounds being built into the figures nowadays, where like 10 or just 5 years ago you didn't have to do a background and you could still win. Nowadays, if you also add a background to the whole scene, or just create a whole scene around the figure, you almost have to do that to win. So it's, like I said, innovation has to be a part of the process to win competitions. And of course, if people can invest that much time, then they will do it. So
do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy that innovative part of the painting process?
Oh, I'm happy that people are doing it. I don't think of myself as an innovator necessarily. I just don't have the time, because I mean, I am teaching most of the time, and of course you're trying to teach people to be innovative, but at the same time you just don't have that much time to create yourself. So that's a bit lacking, but I'm super happy that there is people out there that can sit at home for 10 hours per day and just try new things. And yeah,
it's kind of like if you do any video gaming online, sometimes it feels that way. You hop on to some of these MMO games and it's like the people you play against, it's like, do you do anything besides play this game? Because
yeah, I mean, the good thing is, for a lot of these people, it's a job, right? So they get paid to be innovative at the same time. So and I think speaking about that, a lot of innovation has been achieved through people painting box arts for companies and trying to find ways to create an appealing paint job very fast. So, for example, Sergio Calvo, who is like an industry staple nowadays, and has a really large following. Yeah, I'm claiming that. I have no idea if it was exactly like that, but to me it looks like he was trying to find a way to paint a lot of box arts in a very small amount of time, and it just turns out he was able to perfect that, where he paints like opaque layers of paint on top of other layers and then blends it together with the airbrush. That's a really quick way to paint. Obviously, he's super talented and anything he produces looks like a work of art. But his innovation was purely through trying to pump out a lot of box arts and making a living through that. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up. We're both big fans of Martin Kovac, Uncle Night Shift. Not sure if you're familiar with his work, but a lot of his recent videos, the techniques that he's employing more and more are based on a need for greater efficiency and being able to accomplish weathering in a much quicker and more efficient way.
And probably being able to produce videos more regularly, right? I don't know. I would guess so.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which is a bit of a two-edged sword. I have not followed his latest videos. Obviously, I know him, and his videos are pretty, how to say, so he has found his niche or his way to produce the videos where it's like, he has this kind of monotone Eastern Europe accent, and it works pretty good for video, right? So I don't know. It's just
he's awesome, and that's great.
Yeah, and obviously he's very, very talented and knows a lot of stuff and can teach a lot of stuff. But at a certain point, it becomes mandatory to just produce regular content for YouTube. Otherwise, you just don't get the views and don't get the followers and the algorithm. And
so, touching on that, are you full time with YouTube or no?
No, but I'm kind of regretting. So I'm kind of regretting the last year. I mean, this is a long story. Are you sure you want to dive into that?
I do. Yeah. I do, as a matter of fact.
So I started teaching in 2010, roughly. I think 2009 or 2010. And I was teaching for 5 years, but then eventually the headmaster let me go just, that year before he had to, or she had to give me regular classes. That's the way that the Austrian school system works. So for the first 5 years, you're basically, you have to do everything that they say. And if you don't, then they can let you go and so on. And I don't work that well with people that I don't consider being good leaders. I kind of let them know whenever I think that was a bad leadership decision, because I'm just so empathetic with people. I just can't stand when they put down people for no reason, when I know they put in all the work and stuff like that, and then just out of pure spite they put them down. Or I don't know, I just can't handle that. And I was talking too much. I was letting her know too much, so she didn't give me a contract, a permanent contract. And then I was looking for work as a teacher for 4 years, but it didn't work out. So the YouTube videos kind of started out of just having time and having time to share my passion, I guess. And then eventually, so at the beginning of this school year, I got a job, and I said, the Patreon and the YouTube, it's not really working out. The views were not consistent, and I just didn't know how to make good videos back then. And also the Patreon, so the income, because YouTube obviously back then was no income at all, and it's still not. I could not do this without the Patreon, and it just wasn't over. And I just said, okay, I'm going back to school, and we'll see. I'll just do both at the same time. And turns out, that it's really exhausting. And I'm glad that the school year is over in 2 months. And I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it now because everything's looking up. And if I was 10 years younger, there would be no doubt in my mind to do it. Right now, it's a bit tricky because, I'm not getting younger, and it's tricky to do YouTube at older ages. And I don't know, I just feel like that. But I'm going to try now. In 2 months, it's over. And then I can focus on making videos 100%. And also pursuing other things again, like workshops, whenever the COVID situation allows it. And I'm rather positive that it can make it a living.
Tell us about your Patreon campaign.
So the thing is, I have like 3 jobs right now because obviously I have to do the YouTube videos, which are designed a bit different than the Patreon content for obvious reasons. Because if I just did the teaching thing like I do on Patreon, which is more condensed material, then that would not get views on YouTube. So they have to be different. And I also have to do a couple of videos per month. So yeah, I do the condensed pure teaching content for Patreon, and I do the more entertaining stuff for YouTube. Yeah, and both is accepted. So I have about half and half, I would say, people that just want to support for the YouTube content, and the other half just wants to go hardcore into the details of miniature painting and learn. Yeah, I just try to do both, because while focusing on one or the other would probably be smarter, but I just want to do both because both is fun. That's the idea behind that.
So on your Patreon, I'm assuming it's video content. How
is it different?
Yeah, how's it different? I guess is a good question.
So obviously I'm just one person, and it's not always the way I want it to be. So if I had to start the Patreon over, I would do it even more like a class, organize it more like a class. But what I try to do is whenever I have something I really want to paint, I make it a step-by-step for that figure. But at the same time, I work topics into it, like color theory, or that there's different ways of blending to create the gradient and so on. I try to work that into it. And then on my website, I have an index where if I hit a new topic, I just make a new header and then I just put it under there. So it's like an index of topics that are interesting to people and that people want to learn about, but it's also organized as a step-by-step for a certain figure. Well, on the YouTube, it's like I tried to do that thing too, where, I mean, the last time I was doing a photography video where I just tried to teach the people everything they need to know to make good photos of their figures for their Instagram, for example. And then the other day it was how to go to tabletop level quickly, but still in an interesting way, and to make them stand out a bit from your friend's tabletop standard maybe. And then the next video was about how to go from tabletop to more showcase painting. So it's a bit different. The topics are just different. Like I said, on the Patreon it's more school, university style, and on YouTube I still try to teach you something, but I try to sneak it in through a bit of fun.
I want to go back to your video on taking photographs. It's actually something that we've been talking a lot about on our podcast, because during the pandemic, we all judged some virtual online model contests, and photographs obviously are what you're looking at rather than the real subjects themselves. But I feel like that video is really one of the best I've ever seen. Could you talk about that a little bit and maybe how you developed your photo technique?
First of all, thanks for your kind words. The thing is, I said it before, the thing is I don't want to go out there and talk for an hour about all these settings and what everything does. I just want to give you the tools of being able to, watch that video, go to your workspace, set it up, and just shoot a picture and be like, oh, wow, that worked, right? That's my goal with any video. Of course, I could have made that a 40-minute video where I talk about every little detail, but that's also not my style of working. It's like I just do what works. And obviously, I need to vocalize why it works for my students, but I don't really think about it. I just do what works because I learned how to do that. And for most things that I do, I only learn afterwards why I do it. But it's really important to know both why and how. This video, like I said, I just I just learned by doing all the photography skills I have. And I would also say I just know enough to make what I do work. It's not like I can go out and shoot portraits or landscapes. While I do that, obviously, because it's fun, but it's not like I'm super advanced doing that.
It's a great video. And for our listeners, we're going to go ahead and I'll throw a link to that video in the show notes. You guys can check that out and see what you think. But I really liked it a lot.
Thanks.
So you kind of mentioned it when you were talking about how for your Patreon, when you start a project, what makes you choose a project? Like if you look at a miniature, what do you need to see to look at it and think, yes, that's going to be good to paint or fun to paint, or I can do X, Y, Z with this?
That's a tough question to answer. I guess when sometimes I look at a miniature and I feel like, okay, that's going to be a good subject for teaching something, then it automatically becomes interesting to paint. Other than that, it's always a very in the second decision whether or not I want to paint something. I can't put my finger on it, but it kind of has to, I guess, trigger an idea. So if I look at a miniature and it gives me an idea of what to do instantly, then I'm going to buy it. If I just find the miniature interesting, but I don't really have an idea, then I'm not going to get it, because that means I have to sit down and come up with something and invest a lot of thought into. I like miniatures that just give me an idea instantly. And that's the projects that always turn out the best. So in that video where I critique my Golden Demon winners, that crude collector that has a ton of armor plates and freehands on it, that was an idea I had the second I looked at that model. And those always turn out to be the best and critically acclaimed miniatures, I guess, because best is always relative.
I want to expand on a couple of things, but first of all, the pieces that you've painted that you like the best, are they ones where you've had that kind of inspiration moment, where you've had an idea and the execution turned out to be really great? Or are they the pieces that maybe surprised you a little bit and you learned something about yourself?
I'm not sure if I have a favorite, but it's 100% the subjects where I had an idea. The thing is, those are usually done within a week or, at least a reasonable time frame. And those are the most successful too. The last one was where I placed third in the Ever Chosen competition by Games Workshop. There, I just had that idea and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I just sat down, and while working, I kind of hammered that out in 6 days and then just entered it into the competition. And it's always that spark that drives you and that propels you. And those usually are also the most successful for me. I cannot sit down. I mean, often with competitions, you're like, okay, I know exactly why this piece won. And I could distill that down into my own paint jobs and just try to emulate that and try to play a bit towards what the judges might want to see. But that never has worked for me. I just always had to have that spark.
I love that video. I've watched it several times where you go, and we've mentioned it before, where you critique your Golden Demon Award winners. But is there one of those, if you had to pick one, if someone said you have to pick one, which one would be your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I guess even though it's technically not the best one, at least not the most complete one. So all the freehands I did for that crude collector, yeah, I'm kind of proud of them and they still hold up. But what does not hold up that much is how I treated the skin of the riding animal and maybe the rider. But it's still, having the idea, because they collect genes, like Gene, not the pants. He's the pants collector, like some people said. I think that's my favorite, because the idea was good, because they collect. So he also collected some other things, like these armor plates and trophies. It just was well-rounded and works. But I also like my Ever Chosen entry. It's simpler, but I guess not having that much time and not having too much time to think about it just focuses on all the stuff I learned over the years. And I just tried to put that in there. And it just happened to be working for a photograph, because 2 stages were just judging photographs for them. And then they invited the top 3, and then they gave the top 3 rank 1 through 3. yeah, so everything kind of worked with that, and that just was fun to see how everything came together.
When you look at your work that you've done, are you an artist or are you an artisan?
It's always a tough question to answer, because I feel like that's a partisan thing where a lot of people want to think they're artists, but 99.9% of miniature painting is not art, in my opinion. And I don't really consider myself an artist. To me, it's just a creative outlet. And I guess it depends on how you want to define art. It's up to how you define it, I guess, whether or not I am an artist. But to me, it's just a creative outlet to have fun and to create something. And I don't know if necessarily just having fun creating something qualifies you as an artist. And I don't know if the medium of miniature painting allows for artists to exist. But yeah, it's a tough topic to talk about because there's so many ideas around that. And again, hurt egos sometimes. And yeah, but I don't consider myself an artist, to give the short answer. At least not with miniature painting. I guess some people could argue that creating a bust or something like that is art. But then again, I feel like art has to have a message too. And I don't know if sculpting an undead zombie bust, whether or not that has a message or not, or if it's just, character design.
It's an interesting, it's something that we've asked a lot of our guests, and the answers are always more valuable than the question itself, I think, is because there's certainly elements of art to it, but everybody has a different perspective on what is art and where's that line, and how much of you bringing yourself into the piece, where that line is for everybody, of where you cross over from more of a craft or a hobby into something more, is different for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and I guess if there was a clear core set that you could put art into, then it wouldn't be art. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
I don't think art would exist if we were able to say exactly what art is.
So you mentioned earlier you really don't play Warhammer at all, or any of these games with these miniatures. It's just the hobby part of it that draws you to the subjects.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that for about 2 years I played a skirmish system called Confrontation, which I was drawn to because they at the time had the best miniatures in the world, technique-wise and style-wise and production-wise, I guess. I played that game because I had a group, I guess, that played it. So to me, it was a social thing. But I never had a group where I could play Warhammer with. And on top of that, I just don't have the time to paint, I don't know, however many miniatures for a game. And on top of that, I don't like to paint fast. Yeah, I guess that's the main thing. And just playing with unpainted miniatures would also not be fun to me. So it's just not the right thing for me. There has always been other things that were more interesting. Just wanted to add, I always want to play Kill Team simply because it would be fun to have to do a Kill Team that kind of fits together, and you can be creative with kit bashing and all of that too. So that's really interesting. That's what I want to do when I have more time again.
I have a kind of an interesting question, I guess. In, say, like armor modeling, which is what Scott and I would say we primarily do, I guess the upper echelon or the top tier, however you want to put it, of modelers, they all seem to know each other, and a lot of them talk and about what they do and their work. In miniature painting, like I know you've talked to Roman and Vince on your YouTube channel. How free? That's kind of not the best way to say it, but how free is the exchange of ideas between what I consider, I mean, you guys are top level miniature painters. I don't think anyone could really argue that point. Like, do you guys talk about, do you talk shop? I'm assuming you probably know a lot of these guys, at least on friendly terms, and obviously I hope no one takes that the wrong way. I'm trying to say it the best way that I can, because I'm just curious as how that the top level of miniature painting is compared to the top level of like other scale modeling that we see, that like Scott and I are more familiar with.
Yeah, so I don't feel super competent to answer that because I was, like I said, retreating from that scene for a while for different reasons. And so and on top of that, I'm not the most social person, as in I don't necessarily warm up instantly to very loud characters, if that makes sense. So, and very present characters. So I was not really drawn to those groups of miniature painters that were seeking the spotlight so much. So that's one thing or one aspect. And again, my retreating from that scene for a lot of time. I don't know many people personally that are considered super great painters these days. I just have my clique, I guess, or it's even not the right word to say. I just know the people that I resonate with. Roman, for example, is a good example, because he is also more the brooding type of painter. And then Vince, obviously, he's more talkative than me, but we're on the same level when it comes to how teaching and how to approach miniature painting and all of that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I just have to resonate with the person next to me. And I didn't have that with a lot of miniature painters back then. And that doesn't say anything about those people, more about me, that I just wanted a more personal connection than just having the same hobby. That was not enough for me to connect with people in that group. Also, it's I wasn't going to a lot of competitions, and a lot of people that know each other more personally and more closely know each other because of the competitions.
Speaking to that, what's the miniature painting community like in Austria? Is it strong? Are there a lot of people in your area that do that hobby, or not as strong as maybe other hobbies? What's it like?
So we have to differentiate here. So there's a lot of people that do the hobby, like Warhammer and painter armies and stuff like that, but there's not, I don't know, I'm probably going to butt heads with a few people here, but I just don't know anyone right now that tries to do like super high level painting. I know a few people through my Patreon. They joined my Patreon and then joined the Discord server that I have. And then I realized, oh, you're from Austria. And they try to get there. And they have like a friend that also does it. So they sit together in groups of 2, and they work on that and try to push themselves and give feedback to each other and so on. So it's like those tiny groups that exist and that I probably don't know about, but they are not really interconnected massively. So to me, a scene or a group does not really exist. Yeah, a scene does not really exist in Austria. But there's a lot of people that obviously paint for the hobby and stuff like that. But yeah, there's no connected group of people that try to push themselves. And it's just small groups of a couple of people usually, unfortunately. But it's the way it is.
So, Christoph, as we begin to kind of wrap things up, we've talked a lot about some of your different areas where you generate content. Where can people see your work?
I mean, if you type my name, Trovarion, into Google, you just find everything, honestly. I guess, you can start with my YouTube page and watch the videos. And then if you like it and like my style of teaching, then, and you're interested in improving your miniature painting, you can always join the Patreon. Of course, there's no must. Just watching the videos on YouTube is a lot of support. But yeah, just start at the YouTube channel, I guess. And if you want to see what videos are available, you can go to my website. It's like trovarion.com too. But like I said, if you enter my name into my miniature painter name into Google, you get everything. So Yes.
Are you on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that?
I am on all of these platforms: Facebook, Potty and Paint. What else? Patreon, YouTube. Is there anything else? I'm probably on it.
Are you on TikTok?
Oh no, I don't do that. I refuse to do that.
Well, thank you so much, Christoph. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you and talking about your work. Tremendously honored to get to speak with you today. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well. But you've been a big inspiration on me as a non-miniature painter, as I mentioned. And I know TJ is a big fan as well.
Well, thanks for having me and for the opportunity to talk about, my nerddom, I guess. Or nerdism, I don't know the correct English word.
Our shared love of hobbies.
Yeah, that's a nice way. But yeah, I always feel like I have a hard time when people say, big fan and stuff like that. I just, try to do what is fun to me. And whenever people like it, that's cool. But I never did it. Like I said, I'm not a big spotlight person. So I have a bit of a hard time, but I accept where I'm proud that people kind of, enjoy what I do. And that was my main focus, to kind of bring this full circle with what I said in the beginning, what my focus is with the videos.
Well, thank you again for joining us. Like I said, it's been an honor and we've really enjoyed it. So take care, and hopefully we can talk again sometime down the line.
Sure, whenever you want to. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Welcome back, and we would like to thank Christoph for stopping by and for giving us the opportunity to chat with him about miniature painting. It was really awesome. And please be sure to check out his YouTube channel, Trovarion Miniatures.
All right, and one more reminder that the Plastic Posse podcast is sponsored by tankcraft.com. Nothing can ruin your day or your Tankcraft cutting mat more than spilled liquid cement. Tankcraft has a solution for you, the glue base. It's milled from solid 6061 green anodized aluminum. This thing will keep your bench top looking smart and spill-free for years to come. I've got one of these and I really love it. It's really stable and it looks great. The combination of weight and a sticky rubber pad on the bottom makes them extremely stable. They even come with an optional insert to accommodate most major brands of square and round bottled liquid cement. So pick one up with one of their beautiful Pro Modeler mats and start your next build on a bench to be proud of. Remember, Tankcraft products come with a 30-day warranty, and don't forget the Plastic Posse Podcast exclusive offer. Use the code POSSE15 at checkout for your 15% discount. So head on over to tankcraft.com, that's Tankcraft with a K, no WWW, and order your very own Tankcraft glue base or cutting mat. It just looks better on your bench.
Oh, no, good. Doug's got the yeehaw. Cool. All right.
Warm up them vocal cords,
Warm it
man.
up. Well, thanks for that, Scott. I'd just like to personally say thank you to tankcraft.com. I've always admired their products, and I'll be ordering one soon. Lots of choices, and definitely need my bench spruced up. So with that, that is about it for episode 23. Thanks so much for listening. We know it was a long one. Just a reminder that you can leave us feedback about this or any other of our episodes over at the Plastic Posse Facebook page, or you can email us at plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. We want to once again thank all of our supporters and the people who have been on for an interview. And we also want to give another shout out to our new sponsor, Tankcraft. It just looks better on your bench, and Goodman Models, makers of the awesome Super Sanding Block.
All right. Well, partners, thank you and farewell. Yeehaw! Until the next episode. Don't forget to tune in next time. Episode 24 is coming in 2 weeks, and we'll be bringing you a lot more Triple P content. I already did the yeehaw. Sorry, guys. I'm only giving you one.
I was waiting for another one. I'm a little let down. I'm going to be honest.
Well, life's disappointing.
Till next time, I guess.
Until next time.
Doug's going to live rent free up there.
I am going to be riding off into the sunset, fellas.